supervisor reassures him, saying it's nothing, and he ponders if someone has indeed been waiting for him. However, he concludes that it's not pertinent at the moment. Recalling that the individual training rooms would be fully accessible after the second test, he eagerly anticipates transferring the special movements. The scene shifts to the Motto House individual training facility where Chin Yo-won arrives, and the leader of Team 6 approaches him. The leader mentions that he was searching for him everywhere, as he wasn't at his quarters but here in the Cadet 7 area. He observes Chin Yo-won and recalls his role as the leader of Team 6 in the second test, then questions why he was being sought after. The leader of Team 6 asks if he's questioning because he doesn't know, and queries if he thought that he wouldn't notice that he was the one who caused his teammates' injuries with the needle treatment. Chin Yo-won acknowledges that the leader seems busy, noting his intense bloodthirst, which hints at a potential confrontation. He questions who instructed him to leave them alone in such a manner. The leader of Team 6 becomes enraged and prepares to fight, attributing the situation to someone specific. He observes that the leader of Team 6 isn't reacting to his provocation as another person might, realizing that this individual isn't weak. He acknowledges the need to take the confrontation seriously as he intercepts him. Chin Yu-chan arrives and remarks that they're being ignored. The leader of Team 6 shouts, and Chin Yo-won identifies Chin Yu-chan as a member of the Sword Clan. Chin Yu-chan acknowledges the focus of both leaders, impressed by their achievement in passing the second test. He apologizes for the interruption, but mentions he has been waiting for some time. He requests permission to speak with Chin Yo-won first, stating it will only take a moment, and positions himself between them to facilitate the conversation. The leader of Team 6 wonders why a clan heir is yielding to another cadet and questions what Chin Yu-chan means by asking to speak with him first. He expresses frustration, urging Chin Yu-chan to leave and stating he's been searching for Chin Yo-won all day, feeling increasingly irritated. Meanwhile, Chin Yu-chan inquires, is that so? What should he do? He mentions he waited to see him. The leader of Team 6 thinks Chin Yu-chan dares to look down on him. Chin Yu-chan observes that he's quite feisty, and then considers something. Chin Yo-won contemplates whether Chin Yu-chan's skills are advanced, having nullified the movement he saw with a simple formation. He places his hand on the leader of Team 6's shoulder, noticing how easily he's subdued despite not being in a proper stance. He wonders if there's an injury to his ribs or something else affecting his balance and arm stiffness when he moves. Chin Yo-won concludes that the leader of Team 6 is definitely not on the level of an average cadet, even in his original physical condition. Chin Yu-chan assures him it will only take a moment, so he should wait there. The leader of Team 6 responds indifferently, saying they can do as they please, then jumps away. Chin Yu-chan remarks on the leader's short temper and laughs. Chin Yo-won observes him and wonders what business he has with him, questioning if he's attempting to assert dominance before the next tests. He realizes that regardless of the reason, he won't be able to confront him with just his skills. He summons Nano Machine to activate Augmented Reality Battle Tutorial Mode and set it to the Butterfly Sword technique. Nano Machine acknowledges, activating Augmented Reality in the user's vision and initiating Action Command Mode for the battle tutorial, then sets it to the Butterfly Sword technique. Chin Yu-chan interrupts him, asking why he's so tense, stating that it's understandable given his position. He advises him not to be overly cautious, as this is just their first meeting as brothers sharing the same father, then greets him warmly, calling him brother. Chin Yo-won questions Chin Yu-chan's use of the term brother, wondering if he's mocking him. Chin Yu-chan responds, asking if he's disliked to such an extent, suggesting that his current behavior is understandable given the treatment he received from the 6th clan in the past, and questioning if he expected a warm greeting. Chin Yo-won asks when he learned about that. Chin Yu-chan denies having prior knowledge, stating that he simply wanted their first meeting to be pleasant because he now admires him, mentioning that they both follow the path of the sword. Chin Yo-won retorts, questioning if that's a sufficient reason. Chin Yu-chan asserts that it is indeed the reason, recounting his surprise when he severed the arm of the heiress of the Sound clan, claiming to have become a fervent admirer of his skills. Chin Yo-won dismisses this as nonsense and urges him to reveal his true intentions. Chin Yu-chan admits that it may take more time to establish trust, but states unequivocally, addressing him as a brother, that he should work for their sword clan. Chin Yo-won expresses surprise at Chin Yu-chan's statement, suggesting that such a proposition would naturally catch him off guard, and inquires if he's serious. Chen Yu-chan asserts that he's been waiting for him in front of the library the whole time and questions if he thinks he's joking, emphasizing that while he may not be viewed as an enemy by others, he personally does not see him in that light. He expresses a desire for him to join the Blade clan and stand by his side for protection, prompting him to ask if he's suggesting he give up his position as a clan heir. Chen Yu-chan counters, asking if that's how it sounded, but acknowledges that it would indeed be a challenging decision. Chen Yo-woon seeks clarification, asking what he means by that. Chen Yu-chan responds by affirming that he's heard that if they both pursue the path of the sword, they will inevitably clash, but he believes he stands no chance against him. Nevertheless, he declares himself to be his fervent admirer and suggests that their futures will be brighter if they walk this path together, questioning if he finds this prospect remarkable. Meanwhile, Chen Yo-woon contemplates whether this implies that Chen Yu-chan does not even regard him as a potential opponent. He firmly declines, prompting Chen Yu-chan to inquire about his response. He states that he will make a different request, that Chen Yu-chan refrain from hindering him, as he won't be able to withstand him, ensuring at least his survival. Nano Machine alerts that potent energy is swiftly converging onto the enemy's right hand, advising to employ the second formation of the butterfly dance, the light butterfly circular movement, after stepping half a pace to the left. Chen Yo-woon considers this as the beginning and swiftly takes off running, prompting laughter from Chen Yu-chan. Nano Machine observes that the intense energy focused on the right hand is dispersing, suspending the opponent's intent to attack. Chen Yu-chan acknowledges that he felt a momentary anger, but upon further reflection, he found it amusing and admits that Chen Yo-woon not obstructing him is rather admirable. He thinks to himself that although Chen Yo-woon's mouth is smiling, it seems like a futile effort. Chen Yu-chan mentions they will cross paths again since they share the same journey. Nano Machine alerts that potent energy is being focused onto the enemy's right hand. Chen Yu-chan contemplates the intense energy, recognizing it as Blade Kai, but he believes he lacks the strength to pose a life-threatening threat. He reflects on Chen Yo-woon's ability to disperse Blade Kai with his bare hands, indicating his maturity, and recalls the rumors about him contending with Chin Mu-yeon from the Dark Clan for the clan heir position, suggesting they are on different levels. Meanwhile, Chen Yu-chan declares that he will meet Chen Yo-woon next time and departs. Chen Yo-woon curses inwardly, realizing he overestimated his abilities after defeating Chin Mu-kyum and orchestrating Chen Won-ryo's expulsion from the academy. He reminds himself not to rush and understands that his goal is not merely to catch up to them, but to dominate over them. Reflecting on the recent encounter, he notes that he anticipated Chen Yu-chan's attack and planned to sever his right arm in one swift motion. However, Chen Yu-chan evaded his strike before he could even disperse the Blade Kai, distinguishing himself from others. The scene shifts to the Motto House individual training room, where Chen Yo-woon enters and inquires if it is indeed the individual training room. He observes the dimensions, noting that both the width and length are approximately 25 meters, forming a square shape. He deems the space not spacious enough for practicing formations while utilizing shadow steps. Upon tapping on the wall, he concludes that it is quite thick, which may allow him to study without disturbance. Despite the limited space, he anticipates being able to gather internal energy here and summons Nano to activate augmented reality. Nano Machine complies, activating augmented reality in the user's vision. Chen Yo-woon then instructs Nano to simulate the formations scanned from the sapphire gravestone on the second floor. Nano Machine states that the simulation will proceed in the order in which they were carved. Chen Yo-woon reflects that it is faster and more complex than the one from the first floor. Even if he uses the last formation of the butterfly dance, he won't be able to block even one movement. He contemplates how many people would be able to block such a formation. Nano Machine responds by simulating the formation left by the other person in chronological order, from the 1st to the 56th. He thinks it's insane and realizes that mastering a sword technique like this requires complete dedication to swords. He reflects on the process of perfecting one formation and notes that by the 56th attempt, the awkward and unnatural formation becomes so perfect that it sends shivers down his spine. He instructs Nano Machine to pit the originally carved formation against the 56 other formations in order. Nano Machine acknowledges and activates the battle mode, sequencing the formations with the sword formations as focal points, starting with the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 10th, and lastly the 56th, and then declaring victory. He then sits down and engages in meditation. Nano machine informs him that the augmented reality simulation has been completed. He reflects that it's just like on the first floor, where the initial formations were annulled with only a 1 movement difference. He ponders what would happen if he were to confront this initial formation with the butterfly dance and the light butterfly's circular movements. He reflects that initially, the sword formation couldn't block a single one of the movements from the absolute formation carved on the back. He decides to give it a try, observing the avatar, and believes there must be a way to counter it using the butterfly dance. He begins practicing with the avatars, attempting to defeat each other. Nano machine reports that neuron activity in the user's brain is increasing rapidly, stimulating blood pressure points due to the energy flow, and the user's energy in the lower abdomen is increasing and becoming active. During meditation, he fights with his clone in his dream, and the power of mana surrounds him. He feels a shock, opens his eyes, and wonders what just happened. He is certain he was completely focused on the battle, and if he fell into a trance. He looks at his hand and notices that his body feels strange. No way. He begins meditating again, opens his eyes, senses magic around his hand, and thinks that his internal energy, which was only worth 30 years, has suddenly increased to 40 years worth, and if he has gained the realization to be able to achieve it without the Nano's help. He also thinks that those formations are truly worthy of the title of Muram's best martial arts. He believes he feels like he can use the butterfly dance better now. He fights in his dream with his clone and observes that the way he is cutting through the air is different, and his realization has not only increased his internal energy. He sees magic waves around his hand and wonders if he can just materialize Kai. He believes he is unable to materialize it into a proper sword shape because he lacks internal energy, but he will be able to have 60 years worth of internal energy after ingesting the medicine ball they will receive soon. When that happens, the gap between him and Shin Yu-chan will decrease immensely. He asks Nano how long he has been in this state. The nanomachine notifies him that he has been in this state for 2 hours. He thinks 2 hours is a long time, and it will be difficult to transfer it over to his body as well since he needs to go back to the quarters. He instructs Nano to transfer the formations that were carved first on the sapphire gravestones of floors 1 and 2, as well as the 45th and 56th formations, to his brain. Nano acknowledges, saying that it will transfer the 4 selected formations to his brain. He wonders when the headaches will stop and asks Nano how long it will take to transfer them to his body. The nanomachine notifies him that according to the analysis, it will take 10 hours to transform his muscles and energy flow, which seems too long compared to the butterfly dance, even if it is on a different level of martial arts. He thinks it can't be helped. He will need to come out earlier, and let's go back for today. After a while, at Motto House Team 8 quarters, Chen Yo-woon arrives and observes that there are a lot of cadets who are not present, wondering if they have not returned from their training rooms. Hyo-bong bows down and states that he arrived first. Chen Yo-woon notices the papers in his hand and surmises that they are all studying and practicing what they have memorized from the library. He asks if Hyo-bong has gained something valuable. Hyo-bong responds that it's not much, it's only a second-class martial art, and he studied a step technique because he is weak at bare fist techniques. Chen Yo-woon reflects that it's a time when everyone is throwing themselves into work, and the 4 days that were given for rest are not meant to be wasted. He believes that if he wants to progress even just a little bit, then he can't spend this period of time uselessly. The scene shifts to the next day at sunset, at Motto House's individual training facility. Chen Yo-woon lies down, and magic flows around his body. The nanomachine notifies that the user's muscles and energy flow transformation is 100% complete, canceling sleep mode. He wakes up and vomits. The nanomachine notifies that it is proceeding with the stabilization of the body's biological reaction to the transformation. He wipes his mouth and says now he can live, and he can't get used to this no matter how many times he does it. He observes his fist and thinks the strength he can put into his hand is on a completely different level. It feels like he has become much stronger than when he mastered the butterfly dance. He removes his shirt, sees his body, and thinks these are quite some muscles. It does not feel like his body. Meanwhile, Cadet 1-8 sits in his room, meditating, and thinks his skills are not enough. He was overconfident after hurting Chin Mu-kium since he had experienced the overwhelming difference between him and that Blade Clan guy. He needs to study a lot more to recover his dignity. He thinks first he needs to forget about the likes of Chen Yo-woon and aim for something bigger. Suddenly, Chin Yo-woon breaks the wall, and stones hit Cadet 108, badly injuring him. He wonders who would dare to attack and is shocked to see Chin Yo-woon. He bleeds and falls unconscious. Chin Yo-woon tells him to wake up. After a while, Im Pyong carries him on his back and remarks to Chin Yo-woon that even if it's his individual training room, how could he punch a hole through the walls where all the cadets train? He asks what if they were doing serious meditation. That person would have died right then and there, and they should be thankful that Cadet 108 is still alive. He states that if not, then Chin Yo-woon would have been expelled from the academy, and this will be included in his report, so he should keep that in mind. Chin Yo-woon apologizes, and Im Pyong states that he is forbidden from using the training rooms on the first and second floors. He may use the rooms in the basement, but if he breaks those as well, then he won't be allowed to use the individual training rooms ever again. Chin Yo-woon acknowledges that he understands, promises to be more careful, and leaves from there. Chin Yo-woon considers breaking through a wall made with stone hardened throughout the decades and wonders if it means his internal energy has exceeded its limit. He asks Nano why he has become so strong, as he never even thought that he could punch a hole through the training room wall. The nanomachine notifies him that it is because his master's muscles and energy flow have reached their maximums. His muscles and the energy flow in his body have been transformed to the utmost, to the point where he is able to leave traces on sapphire, which has high hardness, with his physical strength. He ponders this realization about his physical strength. He reflects that now that he thinks about it, the simulation data was created by analyzing the traces left on the gravestone without showing the actual movements. Is that why the focus was set on being able to leave traces on the sapphire stone instead of being able to carry out the formation perfectly, like with the dagger technique or the butterfly dance? He then wonders if the power he has now is his body's limit. The nanomachine notifies him that this is the result of altering his body slightly so that it does not affect his physical growth, in accordance with the data of his estimated growth. He contemplates if that means he can become stronger if he grows more than this. The nanomachine notifies that its limits for muscle and energy flow transformations will become higher than they are currently if its physique grows completely. He believes he should try harder to grow more if it's as it says. The nanomachine notifies that time is the answer, even though it cannot do much to make itself grow more, besides stimulating its growth plates. It believes this is more than enough for now. After a while, in the basement of the individual training facility, Chin Yo-woon considers that despite having decades worth of practice data on the movements transmitted to his brain, he still feels nervous since it will be his first time actually attempting the absolute technique that might be the heavenly demon ancestor's revelation. He exhales heavily and reflects, first, the absolute sword technique. He initiates practice with his avatar using the first movement of the absolute sword technique. He pauses, thinking, hold on, let's try this one more time. He once again employs the first movement of the absolute sword technique for practice and ponders. What is this? He wonders why the movement feels so unsatisfying. He then practices the 45th formation of the destructive sword technique and concludes, alright, the destructive sword technique was perfect both times, but then why does the absolute sword technique feel incomplete? He reflects that it was far from the harmonious movement he had seen in the augmented video, and requests Nano to compare the absolute movement extracted from the sapphire in the augmented video with the movement he just performed. The nanomachine notifies that augmented reality is being activated in the user's vision. He observes his vision while practicing and reflects that in the movement he performed, the moves are connected, but they seem unnatural, and he is even a beat slower in completing them and wonders why that is. He contemplates what the problem might be and considers if it is simply because it's a movement, and even if he does not have the right energy flow, it should not affect the movement. He inquires about energy flow and remarks that now that he thinks about it, even the last formation of the butterfly dance could not be performed properly without circulating the internal energy the right way, and that means he is missing the crux. He contemplates, feeling dejected, and wonders what kind of joke this is, leaving behind only the sword movement and omitting how to use the energy flow. He asks if he can create an augmented video of the front side of the stone on the first floor. The nanomachine notifies that it is searching through the video saved via the user's visual data and has found the saved data. It will create an augmented video of just the front side of the stone. He reflects on how the mighty wind blows and the clouds fly high, remembering how, after spreading his name across the continent, he returned home, and ponders how he could not protect the four corners of his nation with the brave warriors he has gathered. He wonders if there might be a hint somewhere in here. The nanomachine notifies him that this ancient three-stanza poem is the founding poem of the Han Dynasty. He ponders the founding poem. The nanomachine notifies him that it was a poem written by Liu Bang when he returned from his victory over Xiang Yu. He realizes that it is not even a poem written by the heavenly demon ancestor and wonders if any words have been changed. The nanomachine notifies him that there are none. He instructs him to analyze the surface to see if there is even the tiniest clue. The nanomachine displays a screen and notifies that it understands. It will analyze the entire surface of the stone. After analyzing, it has found small holes under each character. He reflects that there really is something, but the number of dots is different per character and wonders what this means. He observes the small holes on the screen and considers the possibility that it's referring to blood pressure points, so 4 holes would mean 4 blood pressure points. He wonders what they would mean, but now that he thinks about it, if the first book was not scanned by Nano, he had Nano scan a book about blood pressure points, and that book had a number and a footnote for each blood pressure point. He reflects that the 4th blood pressure point would be the solar plexus point, and that's odd. The energy flow should start from the danshin located in the stomach point, but that would be 7 dots. He realizes that the character for Big has 3 strokes, so if they add the 4 dots, it becomes 7. Next, Wind has 9 strokes, and the dots below it are, and lastly, it's the 23rd blood point. He laughs and declares that's right, he figured out the hidden energy flow. He proudly states that he is a genius. After a while, Qin Yo-woon finds himself on the ground and considers that he should quickly head to the individual training facility and try out the absolute technique using the proper energy flow. Cadet 200th Yumpa approaches him and introduces himself, stating that he is the 200th Cadet Yumpa. He asks if it's okay with him if he could request a duel with him. Qin Yo-woon questions why he should agree, mentioning there is no reason for him to duel with a stranger when it's not even a test, and he doesn't want to waste his time. Yumpa acknowledges that he is right about that and admits he was only thinking about himself. He proposes that if he can beat him, he will give him a gift and intel on the 3rd test. After a while, they both stand on the ground. Qin Yo-woon expresses his confusion, stating that he doesn't understand and asks what his reason is for acting so foolishly as to request a duel with information on the line. Yumpa responds that if he had to explain himself, he guesses it'd be to check the qualifications. Qin Yo asks about these qualifications. Yumpa replies that they might not be as impressive as the technique that young Master Qin used to cut off Qin Wanryo's arm, but he proposes to demonstrate the technique that the Moon Energy Blade clan prides itself on. He challenges Qin Yo to come at him. Yumpa moves to attack, but Qin Yo moves aside. Yumpa misses and tries again to attack but fails to hit. Qin Yo-woo thinks slowly and hits him, causing Yumpa to spit out blood from his mouth and fall away. Qin Yo observes him and thinks that he put too much strength into it. Yumpa lies on the ground, contemplating how he could lose so easily. After watching Qin Yo-woon fight against Qin Wanryo, he had anticipated they'd exchange at least a few dozen techniques, and he wondered if Qin Yo-woon was hiding his skills. He acknowledges, amazing as expected of someone with heaven's lineage. He had thought Qin Yo-woon would only have the skills of an advanced martial artist, and as promised, he had to give him the information. Qin Yo-woon interrupts him and says, wait, tell him why he requested a duel. He adds that to win or lose, he should have nothing to gain. Yumpa responds that as expected, Qin Yo-woon does not really trust him, and as he told him earlier, he simply wanted to check the qualifications. Qin Yo-woon asks if he is talking about his qualifications. Yumpa confirms, but he is also talking about his own because this is for the 3rd test. Qin Yo-woon questions, what does this duel have to do with the 3rd test? Yumpa mentions that there is a high chance that the 3rd test will also be a group stage. He asks if the Academy did not hear him say that there would be no more group tests. Yumpa explains that's because it will be nothing like the 2nd test. This test will place greater value on an individual's strength. He clarifies that the objective of the 3rd test is to select high-ranked warriors and only advanced martial artists who possess advanced martial arts and at least 30 years worth of internal energy can become high-ranked warriors. Qin Yo-woon notes that among the cadets that passed the 2nd test, only about 20% can be considered advanced martial artists, So, in order to make up for the lack of internal energy, they'd have to take the Black Dragon Medicine Ball. Yunpa confirms that when the medicine balls are distributed, a large number of the cadets will suddenly achieve 30 years worth of internal energy, but there remains a bigger problem. He explains that it's advanced martial arts. If it's not, many cadets would fail since the second floor of the library only contains intermediate martial arts. He emphasizes that if the test is not testing the creation of advanced martial arts, there is only one answer. Yunpa reveals that in this test, they will also be given a secret book for advanced martial arts. Chin Yo-woon remarks that's not all, is it? Yunpa agrees, stating that if it was just that, the test would be too easy, and if the third test was simply learning martial arts, over 80% would pass. He adds that if what his father told him is correct, the secret book should contain the 7-demon sword technique, which is part of the sword demon sword formations, usable by all the high-ranked warriors of the cult. Chin Yo-woon inquires about the sword demon sword formations, noting that he has heard of them before. The scene shifts to a flashback. Jang explains that there are sword formations created by the greatest swordsman of his time, the sword demon. It was a martial art originally created to combat Soram's 18 disciple formation and 108 disciple formation. Among them, the 7-demon sword technique is special, despite being only an advanced martial art. He washes his clothes and continues, saying that when 12 people use the technique together, it becomes the 12 sword formation. When 36 people use it, it turns into the 36 sword formation, and when 108 people use it, it becomes the 108 sword formation. He concludes that a plain advanced martial art becoming a terrifying sword formation isn't that amazing. The scene shifts back to the present. Chin Yo-woon reflects that even an advanced martial artist can beat an expert with the 12 sword formation, and a master with the 36 sword formation, while the 108 sword formation has the power to face off against even a grandmaster. Yunpa reveals that his father told him he had formed a 12-man group to learn the 7-demon sword technique. Chin Yo-woon inquires about the 12 people. Yunpa confirms, stating that it's because that's the principle behind the sword demon's sword formation. He explains that mastering the 7-demon sword technique is not enough by itself. Apparently, performing the sword demon's sword formation is quite difficult. It's to the point that unless one is an advanced martial artist, they can't even understand the formation. Chin Yo-woon asks if that is why he tried to test his skills through a duel. He states exactly that he cannot judge him after having seen only one technique, and he needs to confirm his skills to determine if he could request him for the test. Chin Yo-woon inquires about the request. He adds that he forgot to mention something important. The cadets are expected to take the lead in the third test, from learning the martial arts to everything else. He mentions, though, that he did hear that the group leaders are decided from the results of the second test. Chin Yo-woon asks if that means the group leaders will pick their group members. He confirms, saying that's right. However, a cadet can refuse to join a group, and his assumption is that the third test is more for the 6 main clans and the young masters rather than for ordinary cadets. He concludes that the third test is another part of the Battle of the Heirs. It would be an immediate disqualification if he is unable to gather men and master the 7-demon sword technique and the sword formation. He mentions, as he previously stated, that the cadets can refuse to join a group. Don't the normal cadets have no choice but to rely on the group leaders in order to pass the test? Chin Yo-woon asks if that is not why he said request. He confirms, saying that's right, gathering members and mastering the sword formation is just the beginning. Whether the assessment is through dueling or something else, it's obvious to desire a leader with skills and leadership for the test. He reminds him that he'd promised him a gift, and that gift is himself. Chin Yo-woon thinks no one asked for him. He asks if it is not possible that he won't get chosen as a group leader. Yunpa dismisses the idea, stating that he is positive that he will be selected as a group leader. For the young master to pass the test, wouldn't someone as skilled as him be better than a half-assed cadet? He reflects that what he's saying is not wrong, but he has enough skills to be a group leader himself. Something seems fishy, and he will have to use that. He asks why he picked him, and if it's as he said, there are other Vice Lord candidates as well as other group leaders that have passed the second test. Yunpa admits he did not want to tell him this because he did not want to sour his mood. He'd already made an offer to the young masters of the Dark Clan and Sword Clan. Chin Yo-woon asks if he got rejected. Yunpa confirms, saying yes, they already had all their seats filled. Chen Yo-woon asks if he picked him as his backup plan. Yunpa agrees, and on top of that, they share the path of the blade. Chen Yo-woon acknowledges that. Yunpa clarifies that he is not asking him to accept him as his subordinate. He is simply asking for the young master to use him in order to pass the third test and asks if he will please accept him. Chen Yo-woon hesitates. Yunpa kneels down and thanks him. Chen Yo-woon refuses. Yunpa asks what? Chen Yo-woon repeats that he refuses and moves to leave from there. While running, he instructs Nano to provide facial analysis results. The nanomachine notifies him that it is loading the results of the facial analysis. He reflects that it can't perfectly detect lies, but it was the right move to activate it when he thought something was off. Yes, they already have all their seats filled. The nanomachine notifies him that there is a small change in his facial muscles, indicating a 45% chance that he is lying. He reiterates that he is simply asking for the young master to use him in order to pass the third test. The nanomachine reports that his muscles continue to twitch, and the chance that he is lying has gone up to 62%. He thinks he was only playing it safe since it was still just a chance. He recalls a memory when he said they were walking the path of the blade, and Pamia agreed, saying yes, and on top of that, they shared the path of the blade. He reflects that they are pursuing the blade, yet he only went to the Dark and Sword Clan candidates, cleverly omitting the Blade Clan. He must think he is a fool. Meanwhile, Chen Yu-chan from the Sword Clan asks Yunpa if he refused after listening to the information on the third test. He laughs and remarks seriously, stating that he's such an interesting fellow. He got what he wanted and dipped. He knew he would not fall for such an obvious trap. Yunpa inquires about the plan. He asks if he is going to go crawling back and beg him to take him in, and if he thinks he's that stupid. Yunpa denies it. He explains that it involves joining his group and then disqualifying him by leaving the group on the day of the test. If it went as he planned, it would have been funny, but it'd be a waste for him to get disqualified over such a small thing. If he were not a rival in the Battle of the Airs, he would do whatever he could to recruit him. Yunpa kneels down and pleads for another chance, stating that he still has other plans. He says no, but reassures that it's fine. He doesn't have to proceed any further. Before it's too late, he should find a group to join, or perhaps he will even become a group leader. Yunpa attempts to say something but is interrupted by laughter, and he remarks that there are already a few guys besides him that need to be sorted out. He mentions that he has no use for someone who is useless, so Yunpa is told to leave. Yunpa cries and moves away from there. He believes he defeated him in one blow, realizing that his skills, which he had seen a few days ago, were not at that level. This perplexes him, but he acknowledges that only time will tell if it was luck or skill. Meanwhile, Chen Yo-woon sits inside his room and thinks about the 11 prodigies. It's not certain since the academy head has not said anything yet, but what if it's true? He considers some from Group 8, but it's not enough people, and there's no guarantee that they will follow him. He decides he should finish his training for the day and think about it more back at the dorms. He asks Nano if he has finished analyzing the martial arts books they had scanned yesterday on the first and second floors of the library. The nanomachine notifies that yes, it has completed analysis on the 55 beginner martial arts books on the first floor and the 56 intermediate martial arts books on the second floor. He wonders if it would be possible to make a hologram of a specific person after analyzing their kai and body movements and then make the hologram reenact martial arts. The nanomachine indicates that it is possible if he selects the person as an avatar and specifies the martial arts. Considering the martial arts, let's go with the 5 arts of sword mastery for the person. He sees the Chenmu Kiyam avatar, which appears in front of him through the nanomachine. The avatar challenges him. Chen Yo-woon declines, stating that he will be the one to initiate the attack. The avatar accuses him of not knowing his place and moves to attack him. Chen Yo-woon evades the attack and counterattacks. The nanomachine notifies that Chenmu Kiyam's avatar has died from a neck fracture. He asks how, as just 4 days ago, he would have only been pushed back from such an attack. The avatar remarks that it's not bad, and warns that they will regret this, addressing him as a commoner punk. The nanomachine notifies that Chenmu Kiyam's avatar could not withstand the full force of the master's attack. He considers if he has far surpassed Chenmu Kiyam because of the realization. This was not what he had in mind. Even if he assigns an intermediate martial art to the avatar, it won't make much of a difference. He decides to create 5 Shenmue GM avatars, no, make it 10, and give each of them a different intermediate martial art. The Nano machine notifies that creating avatars for the simulation, the target models are 10 Shenmue Kyum, and the set martial arts are heaven-splitting flying sword, spinning kick, emotionless sword, triple killing sword, falling fist, fist of the horse, flying shadow fist, final emperor's fist, and great sunlight blade. He wonders if he is getting ahead of himself, and he thinks 10 might be too much. The avatar starts teasing him and asks if he is trying to provoke him. The other avatar declares that he is going to kick his ass. The other avatar abuses him and asks how dare he, as a commoner. The Nano machine inquires if it should readjust the number of avatars. He responds that there's no need, just to start it. He is going to kill them all. All avatars come to attack him simultaneously. He wonders if he will be attacked simultaneously and attempts to retaliate. He believes he blocked the first wave of attacks. However, the avatars attack him together with a technique, hitting him on the head and causing him to fall down. The Nano machine notifies that it is temporarily suspending augmented reality. He holds his head and remarks that it hurts, realizing he had forgotten how small this place was without augmented reality. He observes the ceiling starting to break. After a while, Impyong arrives and observes the ceiling, asking what he did to it. He feels pain in his head and warns him, banning him from using this individual training facility from now on. Chin-Yo-woon bows down and apologizes sincerely. He walks out, gesturing for him to follow. After passing a big ground, he takes him to a big room. Chin-Yo-woon thinks the building appears to be about half the size of the individual training facility, but the width of the door is much larger. Impyong declares that he shall train here from now on. Chin-Yo-woon asks what he means. Impyong explains that he'd just break the walls again if he kept using the individual training facility. Chin-Yo-woon asks where this is and remarks that it's much larger and more pleasant than the individual training facility. Impyong explains that it's a training facility that would normally only be available to those who reach the expert level and pass the 4th test. He mentions that of course Chin-Yo-woon has not passed the test yet, but since he has caused another incident, they've made this space available a little earlier with the academy head's approval. Chin-Yo-woon asks how Impyong knows that he has reached the level of an expert. Impyong responds that in order to break the hard walls of the individual training facility, he at least needs an expert level Kai. He touches the wall and mentions that these walls are made with an even harder material, so they should not break no matter how crazy he goes. Impyong tells him not to worry about it and to focus on his training. Chin-Yo-woon bows down and thanks him very much. After a while, Chin-Yo-woon observes the room and thinks that with a training room of this size, he should not have any problems using augmented reality. He asks Nano what time it is. The Nano machine notifies him that it's a little past 8 p.m. He remarks that he still has time then. He considers whether he should continue dueling against 10 Shenmue Kyum avatars since a single advanced martial artist is too weak. He asks Nano if he would be able to duel against Xiaob Meng Sensei's avatar. The Nano machine notifies him that it is possible if it's only based on the movements of the butterfly dance he showed them in the infirmary. He thinks that even if it's sensei and based only on the data from a single technique, he would be more helpful than Shenmue Kyum. The Nano machine notifies him that it is initiating augmented reality in the user's vision and asks if he will select a martial art. He decides to have him use the butterfly dance for now. The Nano machine notifies that it is creating an avatar for the simulation target model as Xiaob Meng, with the set martial arts being the butterfly dance. He reflects that even though it's just the avatar in front of him, this situation feels far more tense than with Shenmue Kyum's avatar. The Xiaob Meng avatar asks if he is now revolting against his sensei. He instructs Nano to please mute sensei next time. The Nano machine acknowledges the command. He explains that Sensei is among the top 10 martial artists within the demonic clan. He moves to attack and thinks that he is no match for Sensei in terms of martial proficiency, so he has to aim for his weakness with a preemptive attack. The Xiaob Meng avatar uses his blade. He notices that he blocked his techniques this easily. Xiaob Meng punches him in the face, causing him to bleed and fall behind. He utilizes the butterfly dance 3rd technique and the 7 dances of the butterfly to attack Chin-Yo-woon, causing him to fall behind. He acknowledges that he knew he would be no match for him, but he didn't expect to be down after just a single technique. He realizes that this is the skill of one of the top 10 martial artists in the demonic cult. The Nano machine asks if he would like to change the martial arts of the avatar. He declines. The Nano machine notifies him that combat is resuming. The Siab Meng avatar appears again and asks if he wants to try again. He agrees and prepares to attack using the absolute technique. Siab Meng moves to attack him, laughs and questions if he is even prepared. They both exchange attacks with their techniques and power. Qin Yo-woon believes it's working, the final movement, and he attacks Siab Meng's nose, but Siab Meng moves aside, counterattacks, and throws him away. He attempts to get up and wonders if he is still no match for Sensei, even with the absolute technique. He observes the avatar and notices sword wounds on Sensei's avatar. The final sword swing reaches him as well, but they are all shallow. He concludes that in terms of purely sword technique, he might have surpassed Sensei's avatar, but he was not able to deal a critical blow due to the massive difference in martial prowess. He realizes that he can't face off against a real master just by having gained the absolute technique. He plans to complete the 6 tests of the Demonic Academy within the next 4 years and surpass Sensei. He decides to start with his avatar. The scene shifts to 4 days later at the Demonic Academy's Grand Martial Training Grounds, where all cadets gather. Qin Yo-woon thinks, damn it, he gave it his all yesterday, yet the best he could do was fight on par with 10 Chin-mu-Kiem avatars. Lee Hwa Myung asks if the guys spent their 4-day break well, to which they all respond affirmatively. He continues, stating that as announced 4 days ago, they will explain the 3rd test and distribute the Black Dragon medicine balls. The 3rd test involves 12 people performing a formation. Qin Yo-woon thinks that his intel is true. Lee Hwa Myung explains that the minimum requirement for being part of a 12-person formation is to possess advanced martial prowess. He points to the books and states that this is the basic requirement for the Sword Demon's sword formation that the main branch prides itself on. Additionally, he mentions that the secret martial arts book for advanced martial arts is the 7 Demon Sword. He mentions that if the guys absorb the medicine balls given out today and work tirelessly to learn the 7 Demon Sword, there should be no problem. Qin Yo-woon thinks that up until here, it does not seem that difficult. Lee Hwa Myung states that the 3rd test will occur exactly 28 days from today, and each group that forms a formation has to defeat the martial arts instructors standing in front of them right now. He asks if that sounds simple, right? A cadet whispers and asks about defeating the martial arts instructors. Another cadet asks if every instructor is not a martial arts expert. The other cadet mentions that some have even reached the prowess of a master, and he was just thinking it sounded too easy. The other cadet adds that it would be much easier to just fight the other cadets. The other cadet asks how they are supposed to beat the instructor when they have so much real combat experience. Qin Yo-woon thinks everything is going as Yampa said it would, so all that's left is for them to announce the group leader. Lee Hwa Myung says the entire process will be different from the 2nd test. They will leave everything up to the cadets, so they should do their best to gather group members and learn sword formation. He adds that after he explains the selection process for the group leaders, they will hand out the secret books and medicine balls before dispersing. Qin Yo-woon wonders if they are not selecting by grades. Lee Hwa Myung asks if he sees the name tags on the instructors in the front row and the 17 martial instructors here, and the students who can take the yellow name tags from them within 7 days will be the group leaders. A cadet wonders if this essentially implies they will be expelled. Another cadet questions whether this signifies that if they fail to secure all the name tags, the number of groups will diminish. The other cadet explains that there are 207 individuals, so with 70 groups of 12 people, 3 individuals are already slated for expulsion. The other cadet murmurs that they are expected to commence by pilfering the instructor's name tags before even confronting the main challenge of defeating the instructor using the sword formation. Lee Hwa Myung advises against dwelling on it too deeply, mentioning that the instructors with yellow name tags will abstain from utilizing their special techniques and will solely employ the 7 Demon Sword. He asserts that this doesn't resolve their issues and emphasizes that it doesn't alter matters if an expert only employs an advanced martial art. Qin Yo-woon believes he discerns their hidden intentions. To nullify the 7 Demon Swords within a short time, one needs to have a profound understanding of its sword movements. They did not opt for this method simply to raise the difficulty, and 7 days proved to be a significantly short time to learn and nullify the 7 Demon Sword. He speculates they intentionally orchestrated this to instill a sense of crisis in the cadets, inducing desperation as expected. Lee Hwa Myung considers them all bewildered, contemplating whether he should further unsettle them. He mentions he does have 7 days, yet he invites any cadets who wish to challenge them at present. He reflects that he had expected at least one volunteer. If they possessed both guts and skills, it would present a significant opportunity for recognition. Naturally, the opposite effect would occur if they were to lose. He surmises that none of them possess such courage. However, to his surprise, some cadets raise their hands. He observes them and identifies the leaders of Group 1, Chin Mu-yeon, a candidate for the Vice Lord of the Dark Clan, Group 8's leader, Chin Yo-woon, and Cadet 18, Beak-gi, who defeated the Vice Lord candidate of the Poison Clan, Chin Jong-sum, and subsequently assumed leadership of Group 12. He muses on the unexpected volunteers, finding it quite exhilarating. Chin Yo-woon notices Beak-gi and considers him the one who assumed leadership of Group 12 instead of Chin Jong-sum. Observing him from this vantage point, he appears quite fierce. Lee Hwa Myung chuckles and remarks that he appreciates the determination in their eyes. He then asks the instructors which of them would like to engage with the cadets. He spots the instructors and identifies them as the instructors for Groups 1, 8, and 12, recalling his advice to them not to become too attached to their cadets. Senior Officer Martial Instructor Ho Jin Chang steps forward. Lim Pyong, the supervising martial instructor for Group 8 in the second test, believes there's no necessity for him to volunteer since he's in charge. From this point onward, he will have to fend for himself, especially against Chin Yo-woon, as regardless of whom he selects, none of them will take it easy on him. Lee Hwa Myung speculates that each of them had likely intended to confront a cadet from a different group to prevent them from assuming the position of group leader for the time being. He acknowledges that thanks to Ho Jin Chang, the match won't be as unjust. He queries why they don't begin with the leader of Group 1, Cadet Number 1. Yo-soon, the supervisor instructor for Group 12 in the second test, volunteers to handle it. Ho Jin Chang glares at him angrily, thinking to himself how dare he. Yo-soon should know that he has a vested interest in this cadet. Yo-soon feels apologetic, addressing Ho Jin Chang as Sunba Nim, a term for senior colleague or mentor, acknowledging that he knew Ho Jin Chang wouldn't take it easy on him. He believes that Chin Mu-yeon is most suitable to become the next Vice Lord, so he doesn't want him to face humiliation here. Ho Jin Chang declares that he will be the one to challenge Cadet Number 18. Lee Hwa Myung regrets testing Ho Jin Chang's patience, realizing that his own Cadet Number 18 will now face a challenge. He expresses his approval. Sang Moon-yo, the supervisor martial instructor for Group 1 in the second test, believes he was already planning to confront Chin Yo-woon. All instructors and cadets greet each other. Chin Yo-woon instructs Nano not to miss a single second of it. Lee Hwa Myung announces the start. Chin Mu-yeon gets ready to fight and employs the flowing cloud palm technique. Yo-soon thinks it's as expected, recognizing it as the flowing dark cloud palm, one of the top 3 palm arts in the main branch. He feels it's a pity that Chin Mu-yeon has to use the 7 demon sword instead of his own poison art. Yo-soon proceeds to attack using the 5th sword technique of the 7 demon sword. Chin Yo-woon observes them and wonders why those sword movements feel so familiar. Hyun Mu-yeon moves his hand to attack, and Yo-soon thinks it's amazing. Despite his attacks being blocked, he isn't shaken up. Yo-soon can discern from the Kai being released through his palm techniques that Chin Mu-yeon has fully achieved expert martial prowess. His understanding of techniques far exceeds that of ordinary cadets. Chin Mu-yeon employs the 2nd sword of the 7 demon sword to attack, and Yo-soon believes that in terms of martial technique, he's already at the level of a clan elder. Using the 3rd sword, Yo-soon concludes that he will have to stop treating Chin Mu-yeon as a mere cadet. Even though the flowing dark cloud palm is a higher level martial art, Chin Mu-yeon blocks his attack like this, conveying that he is proficient in advanced martial arts. Chin Yo-woon can't believe it. The techniques they form might differ, but the sword movements comprising them are exactly the same as the ones in the destructive sword techniques inscribed on the sapphire. He reflects that the only real difference lies in the fact that the 7 demon sword comprises only 12 sword movements, which is merely half of the 24 sword movements of the destructive sword techniques. He acknowledges there's no way to be certain, but speculates that the sword demon might be the one who left all those countless sword marks. Chin Mu-yeon and Yo-soon block each other's attacks and then move back. Chin Mu-yeon thinks he's an expert like him but slightly more skilled. Since he can block his palm techniques with only an advanced martial art, Chin Muyon assumes he has far more combat experience and supposes he's an instructor for a reason. He contemplates that if he can't bring this match to a close soon, he will be at an even greater disadvantage, but he realizes it can't be helped. Yo soon observes him and notices a change in his form. He must be planning to settle this fight with his ultimate move. In that case, Yo soon decides to gather all his Kai to block him. He moves to attack, and Yo soon observes his attack, identifying it as a right palm technique. He decides to block it first. Chin Muyon kneels down and switches his hands. Yo soon notices his left hand and recognizes the same movements as before, but now that it's suddenly inverted, it's difficult to deal with. He decides to seal his left hand. As he tries to seal his hand, Chin Muyon attacks his shoulder, causing it to bleed, and he falls to the floor. All the cadets are happy to witness this, with one remarking that he actually defeated an instructor, while another notes that he has already reached expert martial prowess. The other person asserts that he firmly believes the Dark Clan's young master is the one closest to the position of Vice Lord. Lee Hwa Myung thinks, left sword, right palm, right sword, left palm. It's a secret art that allows him to use two special techniques simultaneously, switching from left to right and vice versa at will. It secured the Dark Clan's leader, Mu Jin-won, his place as the second best martial artist in the cult. However, Lee Hwa Myung had heard that he was the only one who managed to master it. Yet, here is this guy in front of him. He is a true genius. Yo soon takes out his name tag, moves to give it to him, and says he has earned the right to become a group leader for the third test. He bows down and expresses his gratitude very much. Chin Yo-woon sees this and contemplates taking their name tag. Something about the wording of that bothers him, especially if one person can only earn one name tag. He and Sang Moon Yo get ready to fight. Chin Yo-woon thinks to put a hold on that thought, as how he performs here will decide his future, and he needs to prove himself in front of everyone. He finds it impressive. Despite facing an instructor, instead of feeling nervous, Chin Yo-woon is all fired up, which honestly surprises him. He had thought he wouldn't even make it past the first test. However, it's time to put an end to his lucky streak, and he's determined to crush him in front of everyone. Sang Moon Yo moves his finger to call him and considers whether it will be the butterfly dance, then states he might take the first move. Chin Yo-woon considers that he may have reached expert prowess, but acknowledges he still lacks compared to a true expert, and letting him have the first strike is proof that he is underestimating him. He believes with the 10-star Kai technique he can finish this in one attack and move to strike. Sang Moon Yo, observing his speed, halts his attack. He reflects on being pushed 5 steps back even after blocking with the 7-star Kai technique, recognizing his great internal energy but acknowledging that his external energy is too powerful. He curses inwardly, resolving not to simply yield to him. Sang Moon Yo blocks the attack and considers that he is being humiliated. He retaliates by attacking and pushing his opponent away. Sang Moon Yo prepares to attack again, reflecting that his Kai is still somewhat inferior to that of a true expert, and questions whether his opponent thinks he can escape. He employs the 7-demon sword technique, utilizing the 4th and 6th sword techniques. Chin Yo-woon believes he can discern it. Even without Nano's assistance, he can perceive that his opponent's sword techniques are unstable. He compares these techniques to the destructive ones on the Sapphire, considering them to be child's play, and moves to counterattack. However, Chin Yo-woon sidesteps and reflects that his opponent has created the opening himself, regarding him as a fool. He plans to finish the fight with his second technique and executes it, shocking everyone who witnesses it. Lee Hwa Myung is incredulous, he can't believe it. He nullified the techniques of the 7 demon swords with just the basic moves of the butterfly dance. Sang Moon Yo becomes angry and thinks, damn it, to be pushed back by this brat's technique. Since it has come to this, he is going to knock him out with the 10-star Kai technique to internally injure him and move to attack him. Lee Hwa Myung observes him and considers it a lethal technique. He finds it crazy. Chin Yo-woon tries to defend himself but is struck by a magic strike, causing him to spit out blood. He reflects on his internal energy. The nano machine notifies that his organs are being damaged from the energy being forcefully injected into his body. Sang Moon Yo blocks his way with magic and calls for Nano's help. The nano machine notifies that the damaged organs are quickly regenerating, activating the regeneration process. It asks why. Sang Moon-yo wonders, how can this be? He is sure he is sustaining internal injuries, so why he is not falling down? Chin Yo-woon moves to attack him and lands a hit. He believes he just needs to withstand it with his Kai armor, but Chin Yo-woon strikes his ribs and breaks them. Sang Moon-yo spits out blood, shocking everyone who sees it. He grabs his shoulder and calls him a monster before falling unconscious to the ground. Sword Clan's Chin Yu-chan witnesses this and thinks Yumpa was not exaggerating. Sang Moon-yo might become a problem, especially with the seven-demon sword created by the other legend of the demonic cult. Lee Hwa Myung reflects that while it is a collection of plain sword movements, their countless combinations make it a very difficult move to nullify. Yet he managed to do just that, indicating that he is beyond excellent. He is a martial arts genius. He berates himself, thinking he should not have allowed that drunken rascal to get the better of him. He instructs the academy director that they will need to carry instructor Sang to the infirmary. An instructor checks Sang Moon-yo and reports that his ribs are broken and 3 bones are poking out. Lee Hwa Myung realizes he forgot to inform the instructors that Cadet 7 had punched through the fortified walls. If Sang Moon-yo had braced himself knowing that, he probably would not have lost so severely. He orders them to take him to the infirmary immediately. Chin Yo-woon takes his name tag and reflects that he has succeeded. Lim Pyeon considers that the cadets might start to underestimate them if they keep losing, having already lost twice. Ho Jin Chang notices them gossiping and believes that with skills and talent, it should be possible for one to surpass their instructor. Instead of being happy for the next generation, they are preoccupied with worrying about saving face. He acknowledges that he is in no position to lecture them, and in getting caught up in the moment and picking Cadet 18, he fails to notice such a talented individual, giving him another regret. Lee Hwa Myung announces that they will now have the final duel. Baek Gi and Ho Jin Chang move forward for the duel, prompting whispers among the onlookers. Yo-soon whispers, please, let them save face. Lim Pyeon remarks that he can't even imagine him losing, but another cadet reassures him, saying not to worry because it's not just anyone. It's instructor Ho Jin Chang, their senior officer, and upsets could happen again. Another cadet chimes in, stating there's no rule preventing him from winning since he volunteered. He could have been hiding his skills until now, like Cadet 7. Baek Gi acknowledges that he may be lacking, but asks for Ho Jin Chang's guidance. Ho Jin Chang praises Baek Gi's humility and suggests they both try their best, ready to attack. Baek Gi observes his opponent's moves and thinks about the overwhelming presence. He wonders if this is the same person who was smiling just a moment ago, but resolves not to leave behind any regrets and moves to attack. He jumps forward to initiate the attack. Chin Yo-woon tracks his movements using the Nano machine and considers a kicking technique. He continues to gather more training avatars, particularly noting Chin Moo-yeon's performance of various techniques with both hands, finding it very interesting. It's only a fraction of his techniques, so he's unsure if it will analyze properly, but it could be useful in the future if he ever has to face Chin Moo-yeon. Baek Gi swiftly moves, attacking him and noticing that his opponent easily avoids all attacks by simply moving his torso. Ho Jai Chang observes the moves and points out that his opponent's back foot is wide open. Baek Gi jumps onto his hands and takes a long leap, flipping to attack, but his attack is stopped with power. The cadets are shocked to see this, exclaiming that it is connected. Ho Jai Chang attacks his foot, causing it to start bleeding. He examines his foot and wonders if it is a Kai blade. Falling behind, he considers that to have created a Kai blade so quickly, his opponent must be a master. Ho Jai Chang reflects that he has only used a simple sword movement and hasn't even utilized any techniques from the 7 demon swords yet. He mentions his specialization in kicking techniques, but acknowledges that he can't use his right foot now, questioning what he will do. He thinks his opponent is much stronger than the previous instructors. Baek Gi stands up with his broken foot, ready to fight again, and reflects that with this much skill difference, it might be a stretch, but he needs to try and finish this match with one technique. He acknowledges that his opponent has quite the fighting spirit. Baek Gi quickly runs and jumps to attack. He reflects that even with an injured foot, his opponent is not backing down and is quite the determined young man. He attempts to attack, but Baek Gi bends down and aims for his legs. He realizes that this kid has also achieved expert prowess and uses his power to counterattack. Baek Gi considers an afterimage technique, and his opponent falls for it. He remarks that his opponent was not too bad, expressing regret, and launches an attack that hits hard, throwing his opponent away. The cadets are shocked to see this, and one of them says no, he lost. Another cadet comments on how he went down after just a few techniques, emphasizing that it is no easy task to face an instructor. Another cadet mentions that Cadet 1 and Cadet 7 were just monsters. Beak Gi spits out blood and acknowledges his loss, realizing that if he had not gone easy on his opponent and had used a Kai blade, it would have pierced his heart. Chin Yo Woon observes this and thinks that Beak Gi was just unlucky. If he had faced an instructor who was not a master, he might have had a chance. He speculates that the other instructors are probably glad that Beak Gi lost. Ho Jai Chang remarks that if Beak Gi can connect his feint and his technique more smoothly, he should be able to confuse his opponent even more, expressing anticipation for his progress. Beak Gi thanks him for his guidance and walks out from there, coughing. Chin Yo Woon scrutinizes him closely and notices that his complexion is unusually pale and his neck is also tinted red. He instructs Nano to please conduct an in-depth scan on Cadet 18 and have the results ready so he can review them after the third test announcement is over. The Nano machine acknowledges that it has understood. Two instructors open two big boxes full of weapons. Lee Hwa Myung announces that they will also be handing out wooden swords for the third test, with one sword per person, so they should be careful not to break them. He states that if anyone can take a yellow name tag within 7 days, they will become a group leader. He asks if this is understood, to which all the cadets respond motto. Chin Yo Woon holds his sword and a box, thinking that he should first consume the Black Dragon medicine ball, and then he has something else to check. A group of cadets surrounds him. Hyo Bong asks what business he has with his liege, as he considers addressing him as a liege. The scene shifts to the previous night in Group 8's dormitory. Woon Chun suggests that they have entertained the thought that they might be able to change their status and asks if they do not think it's too dangerous of a gamble, and if they are not afraid of the 6 main clans. Hyo Bong admits that he is indeed afraid, but if he is fated to always be looked down on as a small clan lackey, he will gladly risk it all, especially if it's with his liege. There might be hope for people like them. Woon Chun inquires if he truly trusts him, to which Hyo Bong confirms that he does. Woon Chun decides that they will partake in the gamble together, and they, Ma Chil, Woon Chun, and Ho Di Myung, will swear their loyalty to their liege, Chin Yo Woon. They are in his hands. The scene shifts to the present. Chin Yo Woon says it's okay, he can step aside. Go Wang Ho remarks that it was a pleasure seeing his great martial performance. He introduces himself as Cadet 857, Go Wang Ho. Chin Yo Woon thanks him and introduces himself as Chin Yo Woon. Go Wang Ho quickly gets to the point, expressing his desire to become a member of Chin Yo Woon's group and asking if he wants to join his group. Woon Chun whispers that the sooner they gather up members, the more time they will have to practice. Ho Di Mayan adds that since they are 7 people short, they will have to reject 9 of them. Ma Chil comments, as expected of their liege. Go Wang Ho explains that he is from the Dark Fist clan, an elite clan, and emphasizes that as a group member, he should not be a nuisance. Hak Hyan states that he is Cadet 920 from the Dark Horse clan. He introduces himself and explains that he is still only at intermediate prowess, but once he consumes this medicine ball, he will reach advanced prowess. He promises not to hold back. One Il raises his hand and introduces himself as One Il, Cadet 97 from the Gentle Sword clan. He mentions that he has also reached advanced prowess, so he knows he can be of use to the young master. Ya Wu Min raises his hand and requests to be heard as well. He introduces himself as Ya Wu Min from the Golden Gate clan. He admits that he might lack internal energy, but he possesses advanced spearmanship. A cadet whispers that 5 out of the 16 people here are from elite clans. The others remark that 11 people need to compete for 2 spots, expressing their dislike for individuals from elite clans. Chin Yo Woon thanks them all for asking to be part of his group, but states that he needs to say something first. He explains that he is simply looking for people to pass the third test with. He emphasizes that when he leaves the Demonic Academy and sets off on the harsh path laid out by the main branch, he is looking for comrades who will stick with him through thick and thin. A cadet whispers, pondering what they should do. The other cadet remarks that he does not wish to become entangled in the Battle of the Heirs. Chin Yo Woon observes that they exhibit the expected fearfulness and asserts that he does not care whether one comes from an elite clan or a small one, as long as they desire to join forces with him. He emphasizes that, by the journey's end, the current status quo will become irrelevant, and he intends to overhaul the 6 foundations of the main branch. Hak Hyung wonders if this individual is mentally stable and whether he might be a candidate for Vice Lord, but questions if he possesses the means for it. He muses that this is not essentially a declaration of war and expresses frustration, yet acknowledges that they may need to await a different group leader. Chin Yo-woon entreats them to become his comrades on this journey and to form a new foundation for the heavenly demonic cult. This, he asserts, is his desire for his group members. Everyone is shocked to hear this. Hak Hyung apologizes, stating that he simply wants a leader to pass the 3rd test. The other cadet expresses disappointment, mentioning that he had hoped to be a part of the young master's group, but it seems it was not meant to be. He expresses his regret. Hyo-bong considers this situation to be unfortunate. Perhaps they should have been informed after being accepted. He notices Go Wang-gul, Ya Woo-min, and Oh-jong. Go Wang-hul tells Chin Yo-woon that he has also observed the other Vice Lord candidates, and there is something different about him. He remarks that the journey he has described is exceedingly perilous, potentially leading both him and all his comrades to their graves. To be frank, he admits that he too is considering giving up on it. Chin Yo-woon reflects that he is not surprised, considering that Go Wang-gul is from an elite clan. He has the option to support a better candidate. He expresses that like any other martial artist, he dreams of power and glory. Hearing his ambition as a martial artist has only drawn him closer. He kneels down and swears his loyalty to young master Chin Yo-woon. He acknowledges that he may still be lacking, but he pledges never to kneel to anyone except him. He requests to be utilized as Chin Yo-woon's first sword. All others also kneel down. Ya Woo-min declares his loyalty as a member of the Golden Gate clan. Oh-jong similarly pledges loyalty as a member of the Treasure Sword clan. Chin Yo-woon smiles and thanks them. Hyo-bong asserts that he doesn't care about titles, he is his liege's foremost subordinate. Go Wang-hul chuckles and questions if that is indeed the case. After a while, at the entrance of the Demonic Academy's individual training facility, Chin Yo-woon gathers the cadets. He announces that today, he wants them to absorb the medicine ball and memorize the entire text of the 7 Demon Sword. He confirms this plan and adds that starting tomorrow morning, they will train together, and he will personally inspect their movements and techniques. They believe they made the right choice in selecting him as their leader and appreciate the care he shows them. Chin Yo-woon resolves to instill knowledge in them until they learn, much like how his sensei did it. He instructs them to proceed to their individual training rooms and suggests regrouping around 10 o'clock at night after they have consumed the medicine balls. They all agree with enthusiasm. After a while, Chin Yo-woon walks into the lobby and Go Wang-hul calls out to him from behind. He turns back and asks if there is something Go Wang-hul wants to say. Go Wang-hul expresses his concern that he might be worrying about nothing, but he believes that from now on, Chin Yo-woon should always have him or another subordinate accompany him at all times. He explains that he is troubled by how they were instructed to take the yellow name tags from the instructors. Chin Yo-woon reflects that now that he thinks about it, the academy director himself mentioned that whoever could take the yellow name tags within 7 days would become a group leader. He speculates that the real objective is not to make them defeat the instructors, but instead to make the cadets take the name tags from each other. He mentions that since his liege has significantly fewer men than Cadet 1 from the Dark Clan, he might become a target, so it wouldn't be bad to be cautious. Chin Yo-woon expresses his appreciation for the advice. Go Wang-hul replies that it's only natural, as he swore to serve Chin Yo-woon as his liege, and he shall use the training room next to him. However, Chin Yo-woon explains that's not where he is headed. Due to certain reasons, he is now using the training rooms over there. Go Wang-hul asks if that place is not only permitted for cadets who have reached expert prowess. He adds that he will try his best to reach expert prowess as soon as possible so that he can use the same training facility as his liege. Chin Yo-woon acknowledges this with an alright. After a while, Chin Yo-woon engages in practice and reflects on the experience, realizing what it's like to be a true expert. He acknowledges that he has surpassed 60 years of Kai, and if he imbues a blade or a sword with this, he should be able to form a proper Kai weapon. He expresses gratitude, thanking Nano for helping him absorb it. Nano responds affirmatively, acknowledging its role in the process. Chin Yo-woon questions if there is no concept of humility in the future. Nano assures him that humility exists. Chin Yo-woon accepts this and requests to see the video of Beak Gi's earlier fight. Nano acknowledges the request and informs that augmented reality will be enabled in the user's vision to replay the video. Chin Yo-woon watches the duel video and instructs to pause and zoom in on Beak Gi. Nano complies, zooming in on the target. Chin Yo-woon further directs to zoom in closer on the face and neck. Nano follows the instruction, zooming in on the target. Chin Yo-woon notices Beak Gi's ghastly pale face, extremely bloodshot eyes, and red spots on his neck, confirming his suspicions. After a while, martial instructor Hong Du-wai and Sword Clan's Chin Yu-chan engage in practice. Hong Du-wai observes that Chin Yu-chan has also surpassed the skills of a cadet. He is a true expert like himself. He realizes that he can't defeat Chin Yu-chan by only using the Seven Demon Sword. He notes that Chin Yu-chan is not fully nullifying the movements like Cadet Sieve, but he is properly taking advantage of the blind spots within the techniques. He reflects that he was skeptical when Chin Yu-chan arrived with such confidence in 4 hours, but to have analyzed the Seven Demon Sword in such a short time impresses him. He considers Chin Yu-chan to be a genius rivaling the other two, the Blade Clan's Vice Lord candidate, Cadet 5. Hong Du-wai decides that dueling any further would be pointless, so they can stop there. Chin Yu-chan asks what that means. Hong Du-wai removes his name tag and declares that he will give it to Chin Yu-chan. He instructs Chin Yu-chan to gather his group members, expecting great results from him. Chin Yu-chan expresses his gratitude and holds the name tag, laughing as he remarks, "That's one." He then asks who he should go for next. Meanwhile, at the Demonic Academy restaurant, Beak Gi sits eating his food. Sword Clan Vice Lord Candidate Cadet 2, Chin Kyung-woon, approaches him and remarks that he enjoyed Beak Gi's duel against the instructor earlier. Beak Gi places the chopsticks on the bowl and tells Chin Kyung-woon that he is eating and not to disturb him. He thinks to himself what a rude fellow Chin Kyung-woon is and decides to cut to the chase. He tells Chin Kyung-woon that he was impressed by his skills. He seems to be a new expert and appears to desire the role of group leader. He asks if Chin Kyung-woon does not wish to climb higher than that. Beak Gi starts eating rice, trying to remain calm despite his anger towards Chin Kyung-woon. He realizes that if he gets angry here, it will ruin his plan of gathering talented individuals. He acknowledges that it will be a great opportunity for Chin Kyung-woon. Beak Gi reflects that this is the second time someone has approached him with such a proposition. The Blade Clan rascal had been too flippant, asking him to be his right-hand man. He honestly admits to himself that he is not interested in being a group leader or climbing higher, nor does he want to be under someone else. His only goal is to become stronger. Just then, Chin Yo-woon arrives and apologizes for interrupting him while he eats, but asks if he could talk with him for a moment. Beak Gi replies that he is not interested and tells Chin Yo-woon to scram. Chin Yo-woon insists that if they don't talk now, he might die later. Beak Gi asks what he means and is surprised to see Chin Yo-woon in front of him. He remarks that Chin Yo-woon is not even a candidate from the 6 main clans, yet his arrogance supersedes the 2 guys from earlier. He questions if Chin Yo-woon really thinks he could recruit someone like him. Chin Yo-woon tries to clarify that there's a misunderstanding. Beak Gi angrily questions this, stating that Chin Yo-woon threatened him, yet now wants to call it a misunderstanding. Chin Yo-woon explains that he did not mean it like that and gets straight to the point, saying it appears to him that Beak Gi has been poisoned. Beak Gi is shocked to hear this and asks what nonsense that is. Chin Yo-woon mentions that he observed Beak Gi during the earlier duel and noticed that his face was as pale as white, with red spots on his neck. He wonders how this could have happened, especially since he has been vigilant about Chin Jong-sum since being assigned to Group 12. Additionally, he questions why he is even telling him this. Even if Beak Gi has been poisoned, it should not be his concern. Chin Yo-woon apologizes for the misunderstanding, but suggests that if Beak Gi has been poisoned, he should have noticed it during Kai meditation. He asks Beak Gi if he feels fine even during Kai meditation. Chin Yo-woon considers whether Kai meditation allows one to sense poison, realizing that Beak Gi may not know this due to a lack of knowledge in martial arts, but those symptoms are definitely indicative of micro-poison. Just then, he notices Dr. Beak passing by. He calls out to him while putting some rice in his bowl. He remarks that it's been a while, although it hasn't been that long, and says it's good to see him. He asks if Dr. Beak has eaten yet. Chin Yo-woon responds that he hasn't eaten yet. Dr. Beak expresses relief, mentioning that he didn't want to eat alone. Chin Yo-woon points to Beak Gi and apologizes, asking if Dr. Beak could perform a checkup on his friend as he believes he's been poisoned. Dr. Beak asks for clarification on what. After a while, at the Demonic Academy's second-floor infirmary, Dr. Beak Jong-myung holds a plate with medicine and instructs Beak Gi to inhale the smoke by breathing through his mouth. Beak Gi asks about inhaling with his mouth. Dr. Beak Jong-myung clarified to just inhale it deeply. Beak Gi begins to inhale and indicates that he understands. Suddenly, he starts coughing and vomits. Dr. Beak Jong-myung confirms that it's definitely micro-poison. Beak Gi asks what that means. Beak Jong-myung asserts that he is sure Beak Gi has been poisoned. Beak Gi expresses confusion, mentioning that he has been fine during Kai meditation, hasn't come into contact with any poison, and always eats alone. Beak Jong-myung explains that micro-poisons are a bit different. They do not flow through the veins, but instead accumulate in the lungs or stomach. He explains that it can be administered by putting it in food or by crushing it into a fine powder and making someone inhale it while they sleep. He adds that in small doses, it's hard to notice that one has inhaled it while sleeping, and he questions if Beak Gi is perhaps sharing a dorm with a poison user. The scene shifts to Demonic Academy during the first night, in Group 12's dorms. A cadet tells another to get a hold of himself. The other cadet retorts, asking how dare he, especially since he is only from the Gentle Kick clan. Another cadet questions if he thinks he will be safe after attacking Chin Jong-sum of the Poison clan. Beak Gi cleans the blood from his face and asks if it matters who he is or where he comes from. He asserts that at Demonic Academy, strength is everything, and now that he has won, he will be in charge of Group 12. Chin Jong-sum remarks that Beak Gi is so full of himself and advises him to enjoy his victory for now, but warns that the claws of the Poison clan are like poison liquor and grow stronger over time. The scene shifts back to the present, and Beak Gi reflects that this is what Chin Jong-sum meant back then. Beak Jong-myung expresses his relief that they discovered it so soon, stating that if Beak Gi takes an antidote for 7 days, he will be as good as new. Chin Yo-woon asks if it isn't quite serious if red spots are appearing on Beak Gi's neck. Beak Jong-myung explains that indeed it is serious, but Beak Gi mentioned getting hit on the chest during his duel, so the symptoms became pronounced for a moment due to lung stimulation. He adds that if the symptoms were present all the time, not even a godly doctor could save him. Chin Yo-woon inquires how Beak Jong-myung knows so much about this poison. Beak Jong-myung reveals that his mother passed away from being poisoned with micro-poison, and he himself was poisoned by it for a while as well. Beak Gi apologizes, admitting that he hasn't shown his gratitude yet, but acknowledges that Beak Jong-myung saved his life and thanks him sincerely. Beak Jong-myung reassures him, saying it's fine and not to worry about it. Beak Jong-myung recalls his sensei telling him about this. Chin Yo-woon explains that he simply didn't want anyone to die from such a cowardly poison and mentions that he has been searching for the source of that poison. He wonders about the intense bloodthirst he feels. Beak Jong-myung suggests that Beak Gi rest in the infirmary for today, as returning to the dorms might lead to another poisoning. He points out that Beak Gi wasn't planning on seeking revenge right away, and he even has a foot injury. However, Beak Gi declines, saying no. Chin Yo-woon insists that cleansing the poison should be the priority, so Beak Gi should get some rest as the doctor ordered. He assures Beak Gi that he can leave Chin Jong-sum to him. Beak Jong-myung asks what Chin Yo-woon is planning. Chin Yo-woon explains that he believes they need to talk this out. He recalls Chin Moo-kiam mentioning that he would be able to find the person he was looking for in the forest near the 5th dorm. Chin Yo-woon adds that if what Chin Moo-kiam is saying is true, he will let him have the spot next to him. Beak Jong-myung and Beak Gi express surprise. Beak Gi insists that's not possible, there's no way. Chin Moo-kiam sits behind the curtain and silently hopes that Beak Gi and the crazy man from the Poison clan will fight each other to the death, and actually, he hopes Beak Gi dies. He confirms to himself that it's him. He looks him in the eyes. Beak Gi pleads for him to calm down. Meanwhile, Chin Jong-sum walks in the forest holding a light. He remarks that because the instructor stays in the 5th dorm, there really is no one else around, making it the perfect place to collect poisonous plants. He reflects that thanks to the medicine ball, he now has the internal energy of a new expert. He believes that if he works hard for just a few more days, he will achieve the 5th level of the Poison of Destruction. He notes that up until the 4th level, it was all basic techniques, but starting from the 5th level, it becomes deadlier thanks to the poison techniques. He then thinks that without even using something like micro-poisons, he will be able to make that cocky beak Gi kneel in front of him. He laughs and remarks that he will kill him with his own hands before the micro-poison makes him. Chen Yo-woon arrives and asks what has made him so happy. Startled, he turns back and wonders who's there. He thinks it doesn't sound like a martial instructor, but he can't see them clearly because of the weak lantern. Chen Yo-woon asks if he is feeling good after playing with micro-poisons. Confused, he asks what Chen Yo-woon is doing here and wonders if he misheard about the micro-poison. Chen Yo-woon mentions the red spots on Beak Gi's neck and questions if he really thought he couldn't figure it out. He asks how he did, then suddenly recalls something, laughs and says that's right. He continues laughing and asks how Chen Yo-woon figured it out. He starts to mention something about Chen Yo-woon's mother, but before he can finish his sentence, Chen Yo-woon hits him hard in the face. He spits out blood. Chen Yo-woon launches an attack on Chen Jong-sum, causing him to bleed profusely and vomit blood. Chen Jong-sum is taken aback by the suddenness of the assault. Chen Yo-woon approaches him, admonishing him not to act foolishly. Chen Jong-sum realizes they have only just begun and wonders if he intends to kill him, though he doubts it as it would violate the Demonic Academy's rules. However, he finds himself unable to move. He accuses him of a grave transgression and demands that he comprehend his actions. Desperate, Chen Jong-sum urges his body to move. Chen Yo-woon rushes to strike him, citing an insult to his mother. Chen Jong-sum manages to evade the attack and counter with one of his own, blocking his strike. He realizes that his 10-star Kai technique was easily blocked as Chen Yo-woon breaks his hand, causing him to scream in pain. Determined to retaliate, he decides he must kill him and employs his magic spell to push Chen Yo-woon back. Despite Chen Yo-woon's attempts to escape, his facial skin is burned by the spell. Laughing triumphantly, he knows his poison of destruction's 4th level, capable of condensing 7 types of poison within his middle dantian, has succeeded. Among them, the acidic poison is the deadliest, even though the clan leader had warned against using it on fellow cult members. However, faced with imminent death, he has no choice but to unleash it. Nano Machine identifies a powerful acidic poison on his face and hand, prompting it to activate emergency defense mode to neutralize the poison and restore the damaged skin. The Nano Machine states that the damaged skin will soon be fully restored and healed. Chen Jong-sum looks at him, shocked to see this, and asks what is happening, and how he is healing so quickly. He wonders what he just witnessed, realizing not only has the poison been neutralized, but his melted skin has also healed. He contemplates that this shouldn't be possible, even for a master martial artist. Falling down, he berates him, questioning if he is a monster. Chen Yo-woon explains that it's poison, and as a member of the Poison Clan, he naturally wants to use poison. However, he declares that he has reconsidered and no longer wishes to allow despicable individuals who use poison to continue living, and forcefully pushes him away. As he collapses on the floor, his mouth bleeds profusely, and he notices a few teeth breaking, pleading for mercy, begging him to leave just this once. Chen Yo-woon approaches him, gripping his arm, asking if he wants to live and if he wishes for him to spare him. He expresses disdain, mentioning how he caused his mother to suffer such pain, yet has the audacity to request mercy. Chen Jong-sum believes he is facing imminent death now, as this individual is unlikely to forgive him. He acknowledges that the dorm instructors are nearby and attempts to shout for help, but his voice comes out faintly. He observes him and questions whether he is attempting to scream for assistance, given the proximity of the dorm to the instructors. He queries whether Chen Jong-sum believes he would simply stand by and allow him to do so, asserting the need for him to retreat. Placing his foot on Chen Jong-sum's hand, he inquires if this is the hand used to spray poison on his face. The Nano Machine indicates that, based on analyzing his pronunciation and lip movements, it is likely that he said no, not this hand. Chen Jong-sum's hand is completely crushed and bleeding, and he states that he won't kill him today and expresses his reluctance to be expelled from the Demonic Academy because of someone as insignificant as him. Meanwhile, he contemplates sparing him, but Chen Yo-woon responds that instead he will torture him so severely that he will plead for death. He suggests starting with his bones and proceeds to break almost all of them. Severely injured, he lies on the floor, reflecting on his memories of Beak-gi and questioning why he used something like a micro-poison on him. He curses the micro-poison, pondering when he first learned about it. The story delves into a flashback at the Poison Clan main house's apothecary, where Chin Jong-sum sits reading a book. He hears Lady Beak, Chin Jong-sum's mother, inquire about the effectiveness of a certain concoction. She mentions it will take less than a year and hands it to Lady Hwa, who remarks that it sounds suitable, ensuring that those lacking knowledge of internal energy won't notice its effects midway. Lady Hwa wonders where it will be utilized. Less than a year later, news of the passing of the Lord's seventh wife, Lady Hwa, spreads throughout the entire demonic cult. His mother is elated by the news, despising the existence of that lowly woman. However, their happiness is short-lived as they soon discover that the cause of death is micro-poisoning. He reflects on how his father was furious, but thankfully they managed to avoid his wrath thanks to the demonic doctor's defense, asserting that micro-poisons weren't exclusive to the Poison Clan. However, the cook who used to prepare her food took his own life, and the true culprit was never identified. All they could ascertain was that the cook had come into contact with the lady in the veil some time ago, but her identity remained a mystery. As a result of the incident, his grandfather, the head of the Poison Clan and one of the 6 council elders, lost his position on the council, and his father severed all ties with his wives from the 6 main clans. Lady Beak refutes the accusations, stating that his mother didn't use the poison. She reminds him that he saw him hand the poison to her, but revealing this would be akin to confessing to the murder itself. She emphasizes that this must remain a secret they take to their graves, as even he would face his father's wrath while holding his face. Meanwhile, he reflects that ultimately his mother succumbed to guilt and passed away a few years later. He desired to reveal the truth to everyone, absolving his mother of blame, but he couldn't betray his promise to her. That's when he vowed to rise to the highest position in the demonic cult and exact vengeance on the true culprit and her entire clan for his mother's sake. He swore to eliminate the offspring of that vile woman, Chen Yo-woon, with his own hands. Returning to the present, he apologizes to his mother, acknowledging that no matter how much he trains, he doubts he can defeat this formidable adversary. Chen Yo-woon asserts that if he were to remain at the demonic academy, he would undoubtedly utilize his poison against the other cadets sooner or later. Since he cannot kill him, he will instead cripple his danshin. Chin Jong-sum struggles to survive as he sits near him, pondering the situation. He wonders why Chen Yo-woon is still resisting despite activating the paralysis Kai pressure point. He considers whether he should release the mute Kai pressure point to allow him to speak. Meanwhile, he questions Nano about the situation. Nano Machine begins analyzing and reveals that it wasn't the Poison Clan that killed his mother. Startled, he stands up and demands clarification. Nano Machine explains that one of the women from the other 5 clans is the true culprit behind his mother's death and pleads for mercy on his danshin. However, he hesitates, realizing that divulging everything might expose his mother's involvement in providing the micro-poison. Chen Yo-woon scans him and senses that he's concealing something, prompting him to order Nano Machine to conduct a facial analysis. Nano Machine activates facial analysis, and he inquires whether the culprit is indeed among one of the other 5 clans. Nano Machine responds that there was no noticeable difference in his facial muscles, indicating a probability of less than 5% that he lied. However, he wonders if he directed his anger toward an innocent party if the culprit isn't from the Poison Clan. He then questions whether Lady Beak truly had no involvement in his mother's death. Nano Machine detects a change in his pupils and facial muscles, suggesting a 75% probability of lying. He concludes that his suspicions were correct, while Chin Jong-sum insists he's telling the truth. He dismisses him and observes his internal energy dispersing as Chen Yo-woon casts a spell on him. The scene shifts to the second-floor infirmary of the Demonic Academy, where Beak-gi sits, expressing a sense of unease. He suggests having some antidotes ready. Chen Yo-woon arrives and takes Chin Jong-sum with him, requesting the doctor's assistance. After some time, Chin Jong-sum recovers and stands up, demanding to know what he did to end up in such a state, and he directs abusive language toward him. Beak-gi reflects on how he indeed brought him here. Beak-gi asserts that it was there, and finally, he exclaims with excitement, having found his teacher's antidote. He makes Chin Jong-sum drink the antidote, informing him that it will make him feel like dying, but if he wants to live, he must swallow it. Qin Yo-woon thinks he can't let him die like this and wonders if Nano Machine can enter Qin Jong-sum's body and cure him directly. Nano Machine responds that it goes against the system's rules. The user's DNA is registered, so he cannot be transferred to another person or expelled from his body. Qin Yo-woon concludes that it can't be helped and asks if Nano Machine can analyze the poison from his blood. Nano Machine confirms that it is possible and requests Qin Yo-woon to place his fingers on the substance he wants to analyze. He places his hand on his shoulder wound, and Nano Machine begins analyzing the poison. After some time, the analysis was completed, revealing that 7 different toxins are interacting, causing a new toxic effect. He urgently requests Nano Machine to inform him which medicines can be combined to create an antidote. Nano Machine responds by creating an augmented reality within the user's vision and lists the ingredients: Pueraria lobate, Pteroxacum platycarpum, Hautinea cordata, Circium pendulum, Lycium barbarum. Dr. Beak exhales, noting that the situation seems less critical now that the spread of the poison has been halted with the teacher's antidote and acupuncture. He detects a scent and asks if that's herbal medicine brewing, then looks toward the other room and inquires about what's happening there. Qin Yo-woon explains that he's creating an antidote to help the situation. Dr. Beak approaches him and questions if he hit his head or something, wondering how he could make and test such medicine. He thinks all of these are detoxifying herbs, but they can be poisonous if used incorrectly. He considers the combination to be perfect and wonders if Qin Yo-woon studied medicine before. Qin Yo-woon explains that he made the medicine properly, but he needed to know about the poison first. He lists off the poisons: acid, herring toxin, grain fungus, wasp poison, firebug poison, tree frog poison, and crimson spider poison. He asks Dr. Beak if he can trust him just this once. Dr. Beak administers the medicine to Qin Jong-sum and makes him swallow it. He remarks that since he swallowed all of the antidote, it seems he still wants to live, and they're done. He mentions they've done everything they can, and now they just need to prevent the poison from spreading any further with acupuncture. Qin Yo-woon apologizes for causing trouble. The instructor questions if he really had to destroy his Danshin, expressing understanding that the demonic academy is based on survival of the fittest, but deeming it excessive. He adds that not even the academy director, let alone the Poison Clan, will tolerate this, and asks what Qin Yo-woon plans to do about it. Qin Yo-woon thanks him for his concern, acknowledging that he caused the mess, so he'll be the one to solve it. He thinks he's still young, and while he may have acted like an adult so far, he can still see the foolishness of a 15-year-old. If he's made up his mind, there's no helping it, but he wishes he'd think harder about the consequences. From his time at the main branch, he learned that survival doesn't always depend on strength, but also on cunning. He hopes Qin Yo-woon becomes less hard-headed and taps his head, suggesting it's late and he should go back for now. Qin Yo-woon agrees and leaves, while Beak Gi asks the instructor what about him. The instructor replies that he should also go, and he follows Qin Yo-woon. Qin Yo-woon reflects that he only desired to become stronger, a goal made possible thanks to Nano Machine, but he realizes that power alone isn't enough to stand above all the evildoers of the demonic cult. Looking at the sky, he sees nothing but his own arrogance. Beak Gi approaches him and asks why he went as far as destroying his Danshin. Qin Yo-woon explains that he couldn't hold back his anger, fearing that if he left him alone, he might use his poisons on other cadets as well. Beak Gi observes him and thinks that while his decision-making isn't perfect, he seems to think differently from the other Vice Lord candidates perhaps. Just then, some other cadets run towards them and ask if this is where he was. Qin Yo-woon replies that they were supposed to go together at midnight. Hyo-bong expresses relief, mentioning he was worried they might have been ambushed. Meanwhile, Qin Yo-woon expresses his apologies for causing concern. Hyo-bong reassures him, stating it is acceptable and he is relieved that Qin Yo-woon is safe. Beak Gi observes them all and reflects that Qin Yo-woon has indeed found genuine allies. Regarding himself, even in the dormitory, he lacks companionship. He announces his departure and leaves. Qin Yo-woon inquires if he had something to say earlier, to which Beak Gi responds that it was insignificant, advising him to disregard it. Hyo-bong suggests they proceed to their new dormitory. Beak Gi agrees and they head to their room, sitting together. Hyo-bong prompts Beak Gi to explain what occurred. Go Wong-hul asserts that Qin Yo-woon must have had valid reasons, but they still need to enhance their strength. External interference is not expected for 4 years, yet the Poison Clan holds significant influence within the demonic cult. Go Wang Hul recommends caution and focusing on strengthening themselves, as they cannot predict how the Poison Clan might retaliate. Hyobong agrees with him and asks if he isn't much more logical than he appears. Chin Yo-won remarks that they need to be prepared since they have now officially become enemies of the Poison Clan. Hyobong expresses greater concern about how the director will handle this incident and hopes that it will not escalate further. Chin Yo-won reflects that the rules do not explicitly prohibit the destruction of another cadet's danchin, but the danchin is essential for a martial artist's life. He acknowledges this as his mistake, giving in to his anger and acting impulsively. The scene shifts to the next day at the Demonic Academy's 3rd floor, in front of the director's office, where Chin Yo-won stands with his companions. He realizes his concerns have materialized and addresses the director, stating he has brought Cadet 7. Upon being instructed, he enters the office and greets the director as Cadet 7, Chin Yo-won, showing respect. Lee Hwa Myung continues writing as Chin Yo-won enters and greets him, then resumes his work. After a while, he stops writing and places his pen on the table. Lee Hwa Myung mentions that since he had to spend time writing an incident report because of Chin Yo-won, he shouldn't be upset that he didn't receive a greeting in return. He rises from his seat and instructs Chin Yo-won to sit in a designated area, indicating the direction with a gesture. He complies and sits there as instructed. Lee Hwa Myung also arrives and takes a seat in front of him. He begins by stating, "First, let's address public matters," assuming the role of the director of the Demonic Academy. Chin Yo-won ponders the meaning behind Lee Hwa Myung's statement about being the director. Lee Hwa Myung asserts that destroying the danchin, which is the essence of a martial artist, is a foolish act unprecedented in the long history of the academy. He warns that if this incident is overlooked, it might be repeated by another reckless individual in the future. Lee Hwa Myung then orders Chin Yo-won to forfeit the tag and undergo 5 days of empty chamber training in the detention center. Chin Yo-won inquires if he is not being expelled. Lee Hwa Myung responds, questioning why he would be expelled, deeming it nonsensical. At the Demonic Academy, expulsion only occurs if one fails a test or kills another cadet outside of an official test or duel. Chin Yo-won feels a sense of relief, realizing he has avoided the worst-case scenario. Lee Hwa Myung warns him not to be too happy just yet. Chin Yo-won acknowledges the validity of his statement, recognizing that forfeiting the name tag means losing his position as a group leader. He realizes that being confined in the detention center for 5 days will leave him with only 1 day to reclaim a yellow name tag, wondering if there will even be an instructor with a name tag by then. Lee Hwa Myung considers the rules, acknowledging that technically Chin Yo-won should be confined for 7 days, but he sees this as a small opportunity and demonstrates his authority. Meanwhile, he contemplates the incredible aura emanating from Lee Hwa Myung, unable to comprehend the extent of his power and abilities. Lee Hwa Myung suggests they address his foolishness, not in his capacity as the director, but as a senior member of the demonic cult. He further explains that he has enveloped them in his aura to block out any external sound, as it would be troublesome if their conversation were overheard. He addresses Chin Yo-won, who agrees and acknowledges that Lee Hwa Myung had high expectations for him, only to be disappointed by his recent actions, which even a person of low moral standing would refrain from doing. Lee Hwa Myung expresses his extreme disappointment, to which Chin Yo-won apologizes sincerely. Lee Hwa Myung questions whether an apology is truly the best Chin Yo-won can offer and remarks that while he can cause chaos, he seems incapable of rectifying it. Meanwhile, Chin Yo-won apologizes, explaining that he believed Chin Jong-sum was connected to his mother's killer because of the micro-poison. Therefore, he sought revenge by destroying his danchin. However, he became concerned that Chin Jong-sum might die, so he took him to the infirmary to avoid expulsion. Lee Hwa Myung admonishes him, stating that if he chooses to act, he must do so properly. He questions why Chin Yo-won kept someone who could seek revenge alive and warns that being careless with the aftermath leads to dire consequences. Lee Hwa Myung emphasizes that Chin Yo-won has essentially made himself a target and advises him to become cunning in order to survive. Merely thinking 1 step ahead is insufficient. He should anticipate at least 3 to 4 moves ahead. He acknowledges the advice and recalls similar counsel from Dr. Beek, although it felt more like a reprimand. He realizes that the director is now explaining how he acted impulsively and without foresight. Lee Hwa Myung inquires about the reason for Chin Yo-woon's enrollment in the demonic academy. He responds that it is to become stronger than anyone else. Lee Hwa Myung questions whether anger and revenge are his sole motivations and what drives him to pursue strength. He emphasizes that as a candidate for Vice Lord, Chin Yo-woon cannot allow anger and revenge to dictate his actions on the path to his goal. Lee Hwa Myung warns that his current emotions will not only destroy individual targets but potentially the entire environment, leaving him as nothing but ashes in the end. He asks if Chin Yo-woon comprehends the gravity of his words. Chin Yo-woon indicates that he believes he does. Lee Hwa Myung raises his voice, demanding clarification on what he means by what he thinks, asserting that he and those around him are fortunate if they do not meet a tragic end due to his recklessness. Lee Hwa Myung advises Chin Yo-woon that if he truly wishes to succeed and become the future of the cult, he must be passionate yet level-headed. Lee Hwa Myung warns that if Chin Yo-woon fails to heed this advice, he will be defeated long before he can achieve his revenge. He acknowledges the director's point, realizing that he has been solely fixated on revenge, specifically on eliminating the 6 clans responsible for his mother's death. However, he considers what comes after achieving his vengeance. He concludes that revenge should only be a step in his journey, not the ultimate goal. What he lacks is rationality. Lee Hwa Myung believes that Chin Yo-woon is not beyond reason, and if he acknowledges his weaknesses and strives to improve, he may become the greatest figure in the history of the heavenly demonic cult. He recognizes that Lee Hwa Myung's guidance will serve as his foundation, rather than the advice of a drunken individual, and retrieves the yellow tag placed on the table as Lee Hwa Myung departs. He expresses gratitude and assures him that he will take the advice to heart. Lee Hwa Myung instructs his guards to escort the individual to the detention center immediately. They comply, while Chin Yo-woon requests a moment before being taken away. Lee Hwa Myung denies the request, but Chin Yo-woon persists, asking if he could at least explain the situation to his group members. Lee Hwa Myung clarifies that the punishment will be publicly announced, possibly referring to Chin Yo-woon's former group members who are now ordinary cadets. He reflects on the need to educate Chin Yo-woon about the consequences of his actions and feels frustrated by the situation. An announcement is made, stating that Cadet 7 destroyed Cadet 4's danshin, depriving a talented individual of their martial arts abilities. As a consequence, Cadet 7 has been stripped of his position as a group leader and will undergo 5 days of empty chamber training in the detention center. The announcement emphasizes that the Demonic Academy will not tolerate the destruction of another cadet's danshin. After a while, some students whisper amongst themselves. Chin Kyung-woon remarks, "Damn, that guy is scarier than he thought. He knew he was strong, but he's also a psycho." Chen Mu-yeon questions if he has lost his mind, noting that Cadet 4 Chen Jong-sum is from the Poison Clan. Chen Mu-yeon predicts that once he graduates from the academy, Chen Jong-sum will be in serious trouble. He even suggests the possibility of assassination while still in the academy. Chen Yu-chan laughs and wonders how Chin Yo-woon came up with the idea of destroying Chen Jong-sum's danshin. Amused, he remarks that Chin Yo-woon must have gone insane. He laughs heartily and reflects on how his concerns about a 3-way rivalry have been resolved, thanks to his actions. Chin Kyung-woon considers himself fortunate, while Chin Mu-yeon also gazes in his direction. On the other side, Chin Yo-woon's warriors sit in the forest. Go Wang-hul reflects that everyone is undoubtedly shocked, as expected. However, they have bigger concerns. When their liege returns, he will only have 1 day to act, and they wonder if there will even be any yellow tags remaining. Go Wang-hul considers the possibility that instead of obtaining a tag from an instructor, they may have to take one from another group. Baek-gi arrives and calls out to them, prompting them to inquire about his presence. The scene shifts to the next day around 10 p.m. Chin Yo-woon is in a cave, engaged in some simulations while the guards stand outside, waiting for him. He directs the Nano machine to terminate the augmented reality simulation, and as it complies, he sits down and expresses his hunger, proceeding to eat something. He remarks that he will have to endure eating the stale, hard substance for 4 more days. He finds the atmosphere inside to be stifling and humid, causing him to sweat profusely. He reflects that an average cadet wouldn't even last a day in such conditions. Despite the space being smaller than the individual training facility, he appreciates the privacy it affords him. He realizes that in order to be useful, he must maximize his strength within the 5-day period. However, he notes that it's not yet time for the doors to open. Suddenly, he senses someone emitting a strong aura of hostility. He observes a masked figure and wonders about their capabilities, particularly in relation to Kai telekinesis. The masked individual revealed to be Biko removes his mask and identifies Chin Yo-woon. The scene shifts to the night before, at the Poison Clan's manor in the west wing of the heavenly demonic cult castle. Baek Moon-woong, the second son of the Poison Clan chieftain and Chin Jong-sum's uncle, observes Chin Jong-sum's deteriorating condition and inquires about his nephew. He immediately orders for a report to be submitted to the chieftain. Baek-oh becomes irritated and crumples a piece of paper, while another individual insists that they cannot ignore the situation and must inform the chieftain promptly, regardless of Chin Jong-sum's status as a student of the demonic academy. They contemplate various options, including hiring an assassin from the noxious clan to discreetly eliminate him or bribing an instructor to carry out the deed. They also suggest poisoning his food through the cooks or workers. Baek-oh intervenes, urging them to cease proposing such dreadful ideas, reminding them of the consequences faced by the Poison Clan 6 years ago after the death of Lady Hwa. Meanwhile, Chin Moon-woong expresses concern that their reputation will suffer if they fail to take action. Poison Clan chieftain, Baek-oh, the uncanny demonic poison staff and former council elder of the heavenly demonic cult, rebuffs this notion, cautioning against recklessness. He argues that if their reputation were truly at stake, the Sound Clan would have intervened already. Baek-oh explains that ever since the previous incident, the Lord has been actively seeking to diminish the power of the 6 clans by exploiting any available excuses, and causing harm to a cadet within the demonic academy would provide a prime justification for such action. Chin Moon-woong suggests waiting until Chin Jong-sum exits the academy on his own. Baek-oh agrees, stating that should be the course of action. However, he declares his intention to personally meet with the Left Guardian. The story returns to the present as Baek-oh launches an attack on Chin Yo-woon with his aura. Chin Yo-woon realizes that even with his 10-star Kai, he is unable to resist it, and Baek-oh's skills surpass his imagination. The hostility emanating from Baek-oh is intense, and Chin Yo-woon acknowledges that whoever possesses such skill in the detention center is not an ally. He understands that if he doesn't take action, he will be in grave danger. Attempting to defend himself, Chin Yo-woon tries to counterattack. Baek-oh is surprised by his resistance, noting that the kid is relying solely on physical strength instead of utilizing internal energy. Despite Baek-oh's astonishment, he moves closer to Chin Yo-woon and seizes his neck. Nano machine alerts him that it has detected powerful energy emanating from the hand of the hostile individual and initiates emergency defense mode. He instructs Nano Machine to pause and advises caution, recognizing that acting hastily will only result in injury. He concludes that Baek-oh must have a reason for coming all the way here, so for now, he decides to stay on standby. Baek-oh remarks that he refrained from retaliating against Chin Yo-woon's Kai technique, recognizing him as a quick thinker. He expresses a desire to see the face of the individual who harmed his grandson, but acknowledges that Chin Yo-woon seems to have utility. He ponders the identity of Baek-oh's grandson, considering if it could be Chin Jong-sum. He wonders if this man is indeed the chieftain of the Poison Clan and the uncanny demonic poison staff, Baek-oh. Baek-oh asserts that Chin Yo-woon must understand the purpose of his visit. He contemplates whether Baek-oh has come to kill him himself and how he can escape this situation. He realizes that with just a bit of force, Baek-oh could snap his neck, and he reflects on the possibility of dying without achieving his revenge. Baek-oh reflects on his demeanor, noting his defiance despite his young age of 15 and facing death. Instead of backing down, Chin Yo-woon glares at him. Baek-oh decides that he requires a swift lesson and forcefully throws him aside, causing him to bleed. Baek-oh approaches him once more and seizes his neck, believing this action should wipe the arrogant look off his face. However, to his surprise, Chin Yo-woon continues to glare at him. Baek-oh realizes that his hatred for him runs deep, evident from his actions of destroying Chin Jong-sum's danchin. He acknowledges that Chin Yo-woon could become a problem if left unchecked. Baek-oh questions whether he should break the rules of the cult and kill him. He laughs and suggests that if he were to kill Chin Yo-woon and dissolve his body with acid, no one would ever find out. He counters that while Baek-oh might be able to eliminate all evidence if he were to disappear from the demonic academy, the Poison Clan would be the primary suspect. Meanwhile, Qin Yo-woon acknowledges that Qin Yo-woon's martial skills and rational thinking are far beyond his age, along with his persistence to not succumb to fear in a life or death situation. He realizes that if Qin Yo-woon were to further develop, he could pose a significant threat. Qin Yo-woon contemplates that if it weren't for the demonic academy, he would end his life immediately. Beak-oh acknowledges his intelligence but points out that by harming his grandson and thus making himself a target, Qin Yo-woon still lacks something crucial. He reiterates that he cannot kill him here, but he makes a promise. Beak-oh vows that the moment Qin Yo-woon graduates from the demonic academy, he will subject him to unimaginable pain. He threatens to break every bone in his body, skin him alive to feed his flesh to wild animals, destroy his danshin, and torture him until his last breath, refusing to show mercy regardless of how much Qin Yo-woon begs. Qin Yo-woon notices the intense killing intent emanating from Beak-oh as he utilizes his magical aura. He realizes that it would be regrettable to let Beak-oh leave without consequence, so he decides to leave him with a small present to ensure their paths cross again. He considers using sound telepathy to communicate his intentions. Beak-oh assures himself that the poison he has administered is not lethal. However, he warns him that if he reveals the nature of the poison to anyone, thus violating the rules of the demonic cult and arousing suspicion, he will kill him. With that, he throws Qin Yo-woon aside and bids farewell, promising to meet again someday. The HWA Mayang arrives at the scene and questions Beak-oh about their agreement. Beak-oh responds, questioning whether he would refrain from issuing a warning to someone who harmed his own flesh and blood. He then apologizes, acknowledging his failure to control his anger and physical actions. He reassures Lee HWA Mayang that the encounter wasn't serious enough to cause internal injuries, so there is no need to worry. Lee HWA Mayang expresses his understanding, while Beak-oh bows and expresses gratitude for fulfilling his wish. Lee HWA Mayang requests that Beak-oh not put him in a difficult situation, reminding him that he only granted the request because Beak-oh swore not to harm him during the 4 years he will spend at the demonic academy. Beak-oh reassures him, stating that no one will ever hear of their conversation until the day he meets his demise, and then he jumps away. As he watches Beak-oh depart, Lee HWA Mayang reflects that Qin Yo-woon only has 4 years of protection from the outside world. Beyond that, it will be up to him to survive. Nano Machine states that a substance containing poison has orally entered the user's body, and Qin Yo-woon thinks to expel it from his body right now. Nano Machine explains that after analysis, it is inferred that the poison has an effect of dissipating energy. If only the poison is neutralized, the remaining substance can be used to stimulate the energy in his danshin like a medicine ball. He thinks that he wants to weaken his internal energy so that he'll be able to kill him once he fails the 3rd test and gets expelled from the demonic academy. He thinks what a shame things would have gone according to his plan if he didn't have Nano Machine in his body. He thinks Nano Machine expels only the poison. Nano Machine responds, understanding that the poison will be extracted and expelled from the body. He thinks there's not a lot, but it really stinks. Nano Machine replies that the poison has been expelled, and the remaining substance is reacting positively with the energy circulating through the 14 meridian points in his body, stimulating the danshin. Meanwhile, he thinks that it has an effect similar to the dragon medicine ball. If so, let's try Kai meditation using the 1000 martial breathing techniques. He thinks that if he's right, this is a huge blessing in disguise. Nano Machine replies, accelerating the user's metabolism. He sits down and engages in some meditation to heal himself, and he thinks he can't believe it. His internal energy has just increased from 60 years worth to 90 years. He thinks that the uncanny demonic poison staff didn't give him a small present. It gave him an enormous one. Still, he can't believe the Poison Clan acted so boldly. He thinks he would have really been in trouble if he didn't have Nano Machine and thinks this is all a result of his misjudgment. He thinks he got lucky this time and swears he'll never be so short-sighted again. He thinks, damn it, he can't wear this shirt anymore while holding his stinking shirt. He thinks about what this is. There's a faint, cold breeze, and there are cracks in the wall. Now that he thinks about it, the sound felt off back then, as if the inside of the wall was hollow. He thinks it crumbled with just some light taps. With a bit of digging, he should be able to go through it. He breaks the rock and tries to go out. He thinks he'd find a larger cave, but it is connected to a tunnel and tells Nano Machine to activate night vision mode. Nano Machine says, activating night vision mode on the user's eyes. He thinks, did they block it off on purpose? If that's the case, there's probably something hidden here. Nanomachine replies that a faint light has been detected inside the tunnel. He thinks about how light there is and wonders if there are some luminous stones. He walks towards the light and thinks it's getting brighter, so he deactivates night vision mode. Nanomachine deactivates night vision mode on the user's eyes as he reaches a huge hull and asks what this place is, then jumps inside the hull. He thinks he can't believe such a place was hidden inside the detention center and considers that was probably the exit as he looks at the door. He thinks, but seeing how it's been blocked off, this place must no longer be in use, and wonders what this mark is as he notices some scratches on the ground. He observes there's more than one, and the marks seem like something akin to a monolith that was dragged. He thinks, wait, a monolith, no way, and tells Nanomachine to activate augmented reality and scan, while he considers that it displays a 3D model of the sapphire monolith that was on the first floor of the precious library. Nanomachine activates augmented reality in the user's vision, recreating a 3D model of the scanned sapphire monolith from the first floor. He inquires whether he can discern the marks on the floor of this vacant room and wonders if it is feasible to analyze whether one of the marks here pertains to this monolith. Nanomachine asserts that he will cross-examine the monolith with the markings on the floor, and upon completion of the cross-examination, it becomes apparent that this location serves as the original site of the first floor monolith. Contemplating as he did before, he deems it a perfect match and contemplates recreating and cross-examining the monolith on the second floor as well. Nanomachine acknowledges his understanding and confirms that the area over there appears to be the original site of the second floor monolith. He ponders whether this truly constitutes the original location of the sapphire monoliths, yet questions why they were segregated by floors during relocation, rather than being consolidated, and the nature of this stone pillar. He asserts that it is the heavenly daimonic sword art, while he recollects that there is a singular martial art that comes to mind when one thinks of the lord of the heavenly daimonic cult. Reflecting on the greatest and most powerful martial art within the demonic cult, he concludes it to be the heavenly daimonic god art, a revered knowledge among all cultists. It is so esteemed that even those outside the demonic cult refer to it as one of the three great god arts. However, he wonders about the heavenly demonic sword art, whether it pertains to a breathing technique or a sword technique. He ponders why he has never encountered it before, recalling Guard Zhang's mention that the strongest sword art the Lord learns is the heavenly demonic sword techniques. Could this be the name of the ultimate sword technique inscribed on the sapphire monolith? He instructs Nanomachine to cross-examine this handwriting with the ancestors' writing on the monolith. Nanomachine confirms that his analysis indicates identical handwriting. Recollecting a conversation with a bearded individual who remarked, "If isn't it unfortunate," he remembers rumors suggesting that the heavenly demon ancestor had left a sword technique of his epiphany here. Qin Yo-Woon inquires about the heavenly demon ancestor's epiphany, concluding that the true name of the absolute sword technique born from the heavenly demon ancestor's final epiphany is the heavenly demonic sword art. Observing the holes shaped like a rising dragon, he wonders about their significance. He examines the holes, pondering their message, and considers whether they might be related to the number of holes once again, proceeding to count them. He observes that there are 24 holes, coinciding with the 24 movements of the heavenly daimonic sword art, and he cannot think of any other likely connections. Contemplating why someone would create holes in the shape of a rising dragon, he reflects on the concept of a rising dragon as a bright light appears at the top of the pillar. He wonders if it could indeed represent a dragon, noting that the light hurts his eyes. Reflecting on the use of light to conceal a secret instead of darkness, he finds it to be a subversion and concludes that nothing left behind by the ancestor has been easy to obtain. He asks Nanomachine if he can adjust his light perception. Nanomachine confirms he will activate anti-light vision mode, prompting him to express disbelief as he notices small writings on the luminous stones, exclaiming "Eureka!" He requests Nanomachine to scan all the writings on the luminous stones, to which Nanomachine responds with understanding. He then plans to recreate 3D models of the stones to examine them up close. Nanomachine confirms that it will recreate 3D augmented reality models of the scanned luminous stones. Reflecting on his next steps, he resolves to sort these stones by their relevance to martial arts. Nanomachine responds by informing him that it has found writings and drawings for a breathing technique on 24 of the stones. Qin Yo-Woon considers that the holes on the stone pillar indicate something specific and states that Nanomachine eliminates all stones except these 24. Nano Machine acknowledges, comprehending the command while attempting to touch the holes and conjecturing that this inscription pertains to a breathing technique. It surmises that one must channel internal energy through precise pressure points while executing particular movements. These movements are perceived as identical to those of the sword technique depicted on the sapphire monolith. It finds this revelation unbelievable, desiring Chen Yo-woon to execute the breathing technique utilizing the exact movements from the techniques of the heavenly demonic sword art, with the holes aligning to form a row. He considers that employing normal breathing techniques allows him to regulate his kai, whether sitting up with his legs crossed or lying down, making it easier to breathe. He contemplates how peculiar it seems, realizing he simply must attempt it. He instructs Nano to provide him with information on the stones, from the head of the dragon to the tail. Nano Machine acknowledges, saying it comprehends and proceeds to implant information into the user's brain. He ponders the act of breathing while controlling Kai in accordance with the breathing technique. Nano Machine responds that potent energy is swiftly coursing through his 14 meridians, simultaneously analyzing and compiling data as he begins practicing. Outside, the guards yawn as he practices, becoming noticeably fatigued. He questions Nano Machine, asking how long he has been engaged in this activity, to which Nano Machine replies that he has been in motion for 2 hours. He queries the statement, indicating that he has been practicing for 2 hours, yet instead of feeling fatigued, he feels refreshed. He contemplates that the flow of his Kai seems to accelerate with each repetition of his movements, while Nano Machine confirms that the energy circulation indeed quickens. Considering this, he wonders if he should attempt to utilize his Kai. Taking position within a magical circle, his aura expands outward, and he observes that the Kai flow has significantly increased. With this swifter Kai flow, he finds he can release his Kai much more effortlessly. He reflects that it's incomparable to the 1,000 martial breathing technique. This must be what a true absolute breathing technique feels like. He muses on the synchronization of sword movements and breathing techniques, understanding why it's referred to as a sword art. He acknowledges the heavenly demon ancestor as a truly divine being, expressing his humble gratitude with a deep bow as his unworthy descendant. 4 days later, the scene shifts. Hyobong reports that, based on their current information, Chin Yu-chan, the candidate from the Blade clan, possesses 4 name tags, while Chin Kyung-woon, representing the Sword clan, has 2. Additionally, Sa Ma-chak, a cadet from the Nihility clan, also holds 2. He notes that aside from them, 7 cadets possess 1 name tag each, with only a total of 11 group leaders remaining. He expresses disbelief, remarking that the only remaining name tag belongs to instructor Ho Jin Cheng. Go Wang-hul shares his disbelief, stating that his worst fears have materialized. Hyobong observes that 3 individuals have managed to accumulate over half of the name tags, and yet no one dares to criticize or challenge them, attributing this to their exceptional skill. Go Wang-hul adds that according to rumors, they have reportedly achieved either proficient expert martial prowess or even true expert prowess, thanks to their prolonged accumulation of strength. Ya Woo-min remarks that things could have turned out poorly for them. Oh Jong suggests looking at the bright side, noting that they have dealt with the troublemakers. Another cadet comments that Wong Chun and Ho Di Myung acted foolishly, while Oh Jong remarks that this path simply wasn't suitable for them. Hyobong mentions their peculiar behavior upon learning about their liege's destruction of Chinjong Sum's Danshan. Go Wang-hul recalls Ya Woo-min apologizing, expressing their desire to remain but feeling that it's too hopeless. He remarks that they departed from the group without hesitation once their liege's punishment was determined, and considering their opportunistic nature, he wonders if they will fare well in another group. Hyobong wonders if he has dampened the mood too much and suggests that they should not dwell on the negative. He acknowledges that while they may have lost 2 troublemakers, they have gained him, who is as capable as 100 men. Beak Gi jests, advising against excessive praise. Go Wang-hul disagrees, affirming that it's true. Without his intervention, both they and their liege would have faced greater trouble. Ya Woo-min concurs, noting that if Beak Gi hadn't defeated an instructor 4 days ago and obtained a name tag, they would have disbanded, expressing their gratitude. Beak Gi responds that he owes a debt to Cadet 7, so he simply wants to assist, although he's unsure if he'll be accepted. Go Wang-hul argues that if their liege didn't approve of him, he wouldn't have supported him. He agrees while Hyobong suggests they cease chatting and focus on practicing the 7 demon swords until dinner, noting that their liege will finally return tomorrow. Beak Gi agrees, emphasizing the importance of mastering as much of the 7 demon swords as possible to minimize the burden on their liege. After some time during dinner, Go Wang Hall addresses Beak Gi, asking if he's skipping dinner. Beak Gi responds that he typically skips lunch and only eats dinner, but he ends up having lunch because of the group. Go Wang Hall remarks that he supposes he should skip this meal as well. Beak Gi inquires why he would do that. Go Wang Hall explains that even though it's temporary, as the group leader, he needs to look out for him. Beak Gi assures him that he's heading straight to the training facility, so there's no need to worry, adding that they'll return to the dorm together afterward anyway. Go Wang Hall acknowledges this, to which Beak Gi responds that he's fine and encourages Go Wang Hall to enjoy his meal. Oh Jong observes that his desire for food is evident, finding him easy to read, while another cadet believes he's deep in thought. Oh Jong announces that he and Hyo Bong will go, urging Go Wang Hall to enjoy his meal. Go Wang Hall becomes excited and asks if they'll do that for him, while Hyo Bong, surprised, questions why he would skip dinner. Oh Jong reiterates that, as he mentioned, Go Wang Hall is the group leader, then departs, expressing gratitude and leaving Beak Gi in Go Wang Hall's care. Hyo Bong wonders if he doesn't have a say, and they both hurry toward Beak Gi, who questions why they aren't having dinner. Oh Jong responds that missing a meal won't harm them, and that they've come because Go Wang Hall, as the temporary group leader, shouldn't risk getting into trouble. Beak Gi remarks that they are overly concerned, and Cadet 7 won't even be able to have a meal once he's out. Hyo Bong thinks to himself that he's very hungry. The scene shifts to in front of the individual training facility, where Beak Gi mentions that Oh Jong doesn't have to follow him anymore since he's utilizing the expert training facility. Oh Jong responds, saying, well, he never knows. Beak Gi assures him they're almost there, pointing in a direction. Suddenly, they hear something, and Beak Gi steps in front of them. Oh Jong asks what's wrong. They grow increasingly angry as they notice numerous cadets surrounding them, ready to attack. Beak Gi whispers that since they've brought wooden swords, they were likely waiting for them. Hyo Bong gazes at the group leader and identifies him as Ha Il-myung. Beak Gi inquires if they are prepared to fight, while another cadet from the opposing group remarks, looking good, group leader. A cadet questions if he's enjoying himself after abandoning his original group members. Oh Jong interjects, asking what they are attempting to do. Ha Il-myung laughs and taunts, asking if Oh Jong truly doesn't understand what's happening, demanding that they hand over the yellow name tag. Beak Gi retorts that he won't simply comply with his demands. Ha Il-myung warns that if they don't obey, they might get hurt, laughing menacingly. Beak Gi internally reflects that since they are lackeys of Cadet 7, even if he were to surrender the name tag, they wouldn't go easy on them. Oh Jong confronts Ha Il-myung demanding answers, while Beak Gi deliberates on what to do next, realizing that he may not be skilled enough to take on 30 cadets of advanced prowess, and that Ha Il-myung is likely similarly powerful. Oh Jong communicates with Beak Gi through sound telepathy, informing him that he plans to pass the name tag to him, and instructing him to leave with Hyo Bong. Beak Gi questions what will happen to him, but Oh Jong insists that it's impossible for all of them to escape and asserts that he will do whatever it takes to hold them back. Oh Jong admonishes him not to be reckless and emphasizes the importance of living together. Beak Gi also responds via telepathy, urging Oh Jong not to act foolishly. Losing their name tag here would result in their group being disbanded once again, rendering all their efforts futile. He emphasizes that even if it's Cadet 7, he won't be able to take the senior instructor's name tag. Ha Il-myung suspects they might be plotting something with sound telepathy, and he decides that he won't stand idly by. He orders his cadets to attack in order to seize the yellow name tag. Beak Gi swiftly removes the name tag from his shirt and hands it to Hyo Bong, who questions why he's giving it to him. He apologizes if Hyo Bong is upset with him for abandoning them as their group leader, but he refuses to condone such dishonorable behavior. He launches a counterattack against the cadets, defeating them quickly. Ha Il-myung observes him and thinks that his Kai is still faint, considering him to be nothing more than an inept expert like himself. He tells Hyo Bong that now is their chance to escape as he looks at him. Meanwhile, Hyo Bong informs Oh Jong that they should leave, and they both sprint back toward the cafeteria. A cadet shouts to seize the person with a name tag. Hyo Bong halts abruptly, berating them and demanding to know who they are calling Baldy. Beak Gi intervenes, shouting at them to be quiet and leave. As a cadet nears Hyobong, he taunts him, calling him Baldy again. Hyobong notices him and accelerates, running swiftly. Ojong observes that Hyobong's movement techniques are not fast enough to outrun their pursuers. He instructs Hyobong to pass him the name tag, and Hyobong complies. Ojong urges him to keep running no matter what. Hyobong acknowledges and continues running, realizing that if he gets caught, they will overwhelm him. He is determined to reach the cafeteria and inform Go Wang Hull of the situation. He pushes himself to run as fast as he can, finally spotting the cafeteria ahead. After a while, he comes to a stop and glances behind him, wondering why no one is chasing after him. Quickly, he enters the cafeteria, breathing heavily. Go Wang Hull observes him and asks why he is sweating so profusely. He responds that they need to go to the training facility immediately. Go Wang Hull inquires about what happened, and he explains that there was an ambush. Currently, Beak Gi and Ojong are engaged in combat. Go Wang Hull rushes out and instructs other cadets to follow him, urging them to move quickly. He realizes that his fears have come to fruition as he jumps onto a roof and sees that they are surrounded. He confronts them, demanding to know what is happening and if they have knocked out Ojong. He observes Ojong lying on the ground. Ha Il-myung looks at him and suspects that he must be the one who ambushed Ojong. Go Wang Hull demands to know how they dare do this. Chin Yu-chan responds that more troublemakers have appeared, glaring at them. Go Wang Hull demands to know who he is referring to as pests, pointing out that he has the audacity to make such remarks after ambushing and ganging up on others. Beak Gi intervenes, placing a hand on Go Wang Hull's shoulder and advising him to calm down, clarifying that Chin Yu-chan is not the one who attacked them. Chin Yu-chan persists, suggesting that since he owes him, he should reconsider, reminding him that if he has lost his name tag, he is out of chances. He expresses gratitude for the offer, but asserts that he won't change his mind. Chin Yu-chan encourages him to take his time in making a decision, noting that he has plenty of time anyway. Go Wang Hull sits down and inquires about his wound. Beak Gi reassures him that he's alright, explaining that the wound isn't very deep, but they ultimately lost the yellow name tag, for which he apologizes. Hyobong takes a seat beside Ojong, checking his pulse, feeling emotional as he reflects on how Ojong endured until the very end to protect the yellow name tag. Meanwhile, Go Wang Hull inquires of Beak Gi what occurred. Beak Gi explains that Ojong was running with the yellow name tag, but the other cadets captured him, threw him on the floor, and attempted to snatch the name tag from him, beating him to force him to release it. Beak Gi reveals that after Hyobong passed him the yellow name tag, Ojong fled for his life, but ultimately, he was captured by the large group of cadets and had the name tag stolen from him. Beak Gi adds that he arrived shortly afterward and attacked Ha Il-myung, who may be an inept expert but would be no match for him if he were alone. He managed to his leg, causing him to fall down and concede defeat. He apologizes as he passes by Ha Il-myung, who is incapacitated. However, Cadet 5 appears on the scene. Chin Yu-chan remarks that Cadet 5 is someone he has been eyeing for a while now, suggesting that they hand him over. Ha Il-myung tells Chin Yu-chan not to interfere and demands that he leave, questioning if he believes he can meddle when he's outnumbered. Chin Yu-chan utilizes his aura power and advances toward Ha Il-myung, causing him to feel intimidated. As Chin Yu-chan approaches, he remarks that he doesn't mind having a few more scarecrows, implying that he is unafraid of his threats and is willing to continue the confrontation. Frustrated, Ha Il-myung curses and orders a retreat as they walk away. He thanks Chin Yu-chan, expressing gratitude for his assistance. Chin Yu-chan acknowledges that they lost their yellow name tag and won't be able to obtain another one. He suggests that Beak Gi become his subordinate instead. Beak Gi firmly refuses the offer. At that moment, Cadet 5 intervenes. Go Wang Hull expresses surprise, stating that he didn't realize Cadet 5 was interested in him, speculating if it was because of the Battle of the Airs. Cadet 5 dismisses the speculation, emphasizing that the current situation is more pressing and that they are running out of options. Frustrated, he punches the ground in anger. Ya Woo-min suggests the idea of gathering cadets and replicating the same strategy as their opponents. Go Wang Hull responds that in that case, they would have to recruit individuals motivated by self-interest rather than those genuinely committed to serving their liege, which would contradict their liege's desires. Beak Gi inquires about their next course of action, and Go Wang Hull responds that there is another solution. Chen Muyon interjects, stating that if Go Wang Hul is referring to the senior instructor's name tag, he should be aware that obtaining it is impossible. He notes that Go Wang Hul, having sparred with the senior instructor personally, should understand this better than anyone else, especially since even the other Vice Lord candidates are avoiding challenging him. Go Wang Hul insists that they must continue to have faith in their liege. Beak Gi wonders if putting their trust in him while waiting is truly their only option. Hyo Bong hoists Ojong onto his shoulder and announces that he will return as he intends to take him to the infirmary. Ya Wu Min offers his assistance, but Hyo Bong insists that he needs to express something, asserting that, just like Ya Wu Min, he also believes in their liege. He emphasizes that he has more faith in their liege than anyone else. However, he doesn't believe it's right for them to simply wait and rely on him. As his retainers, he feels they should take action befitting their role. He suggests that if there truly is no other way, they should at least begin recruiting other cadets willing to join them until their liege emerges the next day. He apologizes if he was a bit too harsh. Go Wang Hul laughs and rejects the apology, agreeing with Hyo Bong's sentiments. He acknowledges that they shouldn't solely depend on their liege, and as his retainers, they should act as his hands and feet. He compliments Hyo Bong, stating that he is truly their greatest retainer. Ma Chil expresses his admiration for Hyo Bong's ideas, while Ya Wu Min acknowledges that he does indeed have useful ideas sometimes. They agree to stop standing around and begin taking action, prompting everyone to move. The next morning, around 8 a.m., Martial Instructor Lim Pyong rushes to the scene, wondering if Chin Yo Woon endured his punishment well. Recognizing that today marks the end of his punishment, he instructs them to open the door as they arrive at the entrance of the cave where Chin Yo Woon was confined. They open the door and inform him that his punishment has ended, but he remains in meditation. As Chin Yo Woon emerges, Lim Pyong observes him and thinks to himself that despite his ordeal, his body appears resilient and his eyes are brighter than before. Lim Pyong asks him about his shirt, noticing its condition. He shows them his smelly shirt, causing them to cover their noses due to the foul stench. They inquire about the stench and quickly run away, questioning what he did to his shirt. Sang Moon-yo investigates the cave and finds nothing out of the ordinary before returning with his report. Lim Pyong agrees, saying, "Okay, then let's head on down." He thinks to himself thankfully that they missed the hole he filled in with rocks, and they all proceed towards the academy. Chin Yo Woon inquires about the number of remaining yellow name tags. Lim Pyong observes that he still hasn't given up and responds, "There's one left." Chin Yo Woon attempts to say something, but Lim Pyong interrupts, stating that he should already know that his name tag isn't the only solution. He acknowledges this and decides to go after the other cadets. He calls for the instructor, expressing his desire to see Instructor Ho Jin Chang immediately. Lim Pyong asks what he plans to say, suggesting that he wash up first. Lim Pyong questions if Chin Yo Woon is out of his mind, advising him not to be rash and to aim for something within his capabilities. Agreeing, Lim Pyong acknowledges that Chin Yo Woon shouldn't bite off more than he can chew and warns against throwing caution to the wind out of desperation. He expresses gratitude for the advice, assuring Lim Pyong that if the situation seems truly hopeless, he will give up during the spar, requesting at least a chance. Lim Pyong thinks to himself, wondering if he learned anything from his punishment and why he desires to undertake such a reckless challenge. Lim Pyong asks if Chin Yo Woon will give up during a spar, questioning if he holds such mercy in his fists, but realizing that he seems determined, he concedes. Lim Pyong advises him to avoid getting injured if possible, warning that otherwise, he may not have any further chances. Chin Yo Woon promises to take that advice to heart. Meanwhile, Beak Gi stands alongside Hyo Bong, expressing disbelief as he asks if Hyo Bong is truly suggesting that he become Cadet 7's retainer. He asserts that Hyo Bong must be out of his mind and dismisses the idea as nonsense. He reflects that this is his fourth rejection now and resolves to continue searching for a bit longer. Upon reaching the training hall, he looks around and wonders what is happening, considering if there is some sort of problem. As they observe his presence, the cadets begin whispering among themselves. One of them questions why Chin Yo Woon is there and wonders if he is actually going to challenge him. Ma Chil whispers that today marks the end of his punishment, prompting confusion as someone questions what is against him. Ho Jin Chang emerges, and Chin Yo Woon observes him, noting his arrival and identifying him as Instructor Ho Jin Chang. Ho Jin Chang also gazes at Chen Yo Woon, pondering why Cadet 7, one of his top sparring candidates, has come here alone. He offers greetings to the instructor, addressing himself as Cadet 7 Chen Yo Woon. Ho Jin Chang acknowledges the greeting, remarking that it's been a while, and commends Chen Yo Woon for enduring 5 days at the detention center. He then inquires whether they would like to spar using a wooden sword or fight bare-handed. Chen Yo Woon expresses a preference for fighting bare-handed. Ho Jin Chang agrees, saying, "Alright, let's start right away." As they prepare for the fight, he acknowledges it as a challenge. The other cadets observe them, impressed by Chen Yo Woon's strong fighting spirit. Oh Jong remarks that Cadet 7 won't be able to defeat him, noting that even Cadet 5 conceded to him. Chen Yo Woon reflects that he has lost a lot from his punishment and realizes that in order to gain the support of the cadets, he needs to change the narrative. Ho Jin Chang urges him to make the first move, inviting him to attack. He believes that in the demonic cult where power is paramount, this is the most effective strategy, and he simply needs to demonstrate his skills. He expresses eagerness to learn from Ho Jin Chang. Using his aura, he swiftly approaches Ho Jin Chang, who observes him and thinks that he's fast, but he has already fully analyzed his blade techniques. They exchange attacks, with Ho Jin Chang realizing that he used a sword technique instead of a blade technique. As they continue to clash, Ho Jin Chang realizes that he is nullifying the 5th sword technique movement by movement, and he notes that Chen Yo Woon is not simply reacting quickly, but he's executing his moves skillfully at this pace. Ho Jin Chang acknowledges Chen Yo Woon's proficiency, noting that he can perform sword techniques of this level. He decides to increase the difficulty a bit and executes the 7 Demon Swords 4 techniques using simultaneous release. Some cadets observe them, and one of them comments that from the 1st sword to the 4th sword, Chen Yo Woon performed them simultaneously, creating various combinations, demonstrating the mastery of a martial artist. He then employs the heavenly demonic sword art, shocking all the cadets, who inquire about the technique. As they continue to engage in combat, he realizes the greatness of the sword technique, understanding that it's not something he can simply block. He prepares his defensive kai and launches an attack. Ho Jin Chang maneuvers away, and Chen Yo Woon reflects that the encounter unfolded exactly as it did in the augmented reality simulation, confirming the similarity between the 7 Demon Sword and the destructive sword technique. Ho Jin Chang also activates his full power aura, prompting Chen Yo Woon to reflect that the instructor's fighting spirit hasn't subsided and the duel isn't over yet. He considers it fortunate that he used 10-star Kai to endure the sword technique. If they were using real swords, he surely would have died. With full force, he places his hand on the ground, thinking that while he may not have been using his special techniques, he wasn't going easy on him either. He acknowledges that Ho Jin Chang has made him want to duel with all he has got. As Ho Jin Chang expels his Kai and cracks the ground, he observes this and considers that he heard master martial artists are able to expel foreign Kai from their bodies. He concludes that the fight isn't going to end just because Ho Jin Chang got the first hit on him with the heavenly demonic sword art. Ho Jin Chang suggests they have some more fun, prompting both to get ready to fight again. He wonders why Ho Jin Chang is retracting his fighting spirit. Ho Jin Chang expresses extreme admiration, stating that Chen Yo Woon is the perfect example of someone who improves every day. He considers the possibility that a monster who defies the imagination of the main branch might be born and gives his yellow name tag to him. As an instructor, he admits that it was his loss today and acknowledges that he is more than qualified to be a group leader. Chen Yo Woon becomes excited and thanks him. One cadet remarks that he really did it. After a while, Ho Jin Chang remarks that he is more than qualified to be a group leader. Chen Yo Woon is surprised to hear this. Hyo Bong exclaims that he really did it and becomes emotional. He mentions they have been waiting for his return. Chen Yo Woon apologizes for making the guys worry. Hyo Bong tells him not to apologize. Baek Gi arrives and calls him. He turns back, sees him, and wonders about what he wants from him. Baek Gi seems like he has something to say, and Chen Yo Woon wonders if it is something important. Baek Gi kneels down. Chen Yo Woon is shocked to see this and asks what he is doing. Baek Gi expresses his gratitude, stating that he, Cadet 18 Baek Gi, was saved from the Poison Clan's poison by young master Chen Yo Woon. The cadets are shocked to hear this, and one whispers that the Poison Clan used poison on Cadet 18. Another cadet asks what he is talking about. Beak explains that after seeing young Master Chin Yo-woon endure imprisonment at the detention center after saving him, he, Beak, could not help but be moved. Chin Yo-woon wonders why he is talking so strangely. A cadet asks if he is telling them that Cadet 7 did that for Cadet 18. Another cadet asks why else Cadet 18 would say that while on his knees. Another cadet asks why they did that to him. Beak asserts that he, Cadet 18 Beak, swears upon his life to serve young Master Chin as his loyal retainer. He wonders if he can see that he came up with this plan himself. A cadet asks if Cadet 18 is Cadet 7's underling. Another cadet asks if he did that to protect his retainer, and all for the sake of his own men. Go Wang-hol thinks it was good work, although his speech was a bit awkward. He decides that this is the last time he goes along with his ideas, which is understandable. Lim Pyon asks Ho Jin Chang if he will be okay. He inquires whether he believes he is feeling ashamed or experiencing some other emotion and states that he earned it fairly and squarely with his skills. Lim Pyon acknowledges his proficiency, remarking on his remarkable ability to learn such an extraordinary sword technique and questions whether he also learned from the proper guardian. He suggests that, given his status as a grandmaster martial artist, this possibility is quite likely. Lim Pyon further inquires why someone renowned for their blade techniques would teach their student a sword technique. He asks if Ho Jin Chang is not planning to come to the office. Ho Jin Chang responds that Lim Pyon should go ahead, as he wants to get some fresh air first. After a while, Ho Jin Chang approaches Lee Hwa Myung and calls out to him, stating that he is finally here. Ho Jin Chang reflects, thinking that if he hadn't communicated with him via sound telepathy, he would have lost control. He remarks that anyone would have reacted similarly when faced with such a sword technique. Reflecting on his youth, Ho Jin Chang mentions that he has engaged in hundreds of battles against the forces of justice and evil, and evidently he has fought alongside the Lord on numerous occasions. He asserts that since he has personally aided the Lord as a guardian, he must know this better than he does. He recalls Chin Yo-woon fighting and remarks that the sword technique used by Chin Yo-woon, if his eyes did not deceive him, was just like the Lord's heavenly demonic sword techniques and, in fact, even more blood-curdling. He explains that the divine demonic sword technique, attributed to the founder of the demonic cult, the heavenly demon, is considered the most excellent sword technique of the cult, only passed down to lords. It is said that the divine demon ancestor, the greatest martial arts genius of his time, reigns as the most excellent martial artist thanks to these sword techniques. Lee Hwa Myung contemplates that although similar to the heavenly demonic sword techniques at first glance, it is actually far greater a sword technique that surpasses even the heavenly demonic sword techniques of the Lord. He wonders how this could be possible, and if the kid learned it from the sapphire monolith, said to hold the heavenly demon ancestor's final epiphany, but notes that the back of the monolith has been damaged from sword markings. Despite having examined it several times, he couldn't discern anything, so he pondered how. Ho Jin Chang begins to ask where that sword technique could be from, but before he completes his sentence, Lee Hwa Myung suggests keeping the matter a secret for now. He remarks that Ho Jin Chang seems to share the same thoughts as him, and he understands. He adds that he also believes it's the best course of action for now. Meanwhile, Ho Sang Hwa approaches and calls out to young Master Chin Yo-woon. She kneels down and expresses that she was moved after hearing about the sacrifice he had made for his retainer. She mentions that she heard he was recruiting talented individuals regardless of their gender and clan, and she asks if he will accept her. She hereby promises to dedicate her entire life to serving him. Go Wang-hol blushes upon seeing her. Beak wonders why he is blushing. Go Wang-hol also kneels down and expresses his desire to wait for him too. He acknowledges that his martial arts skills might not be the greatest, but if he accepts him, he promises to swear eternal loyalty to him. Chin Yo-woon remarks that one can always improve their martial arts, and more importantly, he is thankful that they want to follow him. He welcomes them to the group. Jin Guk also kneels down and introduces himself as Jin Guk, the eldest son of the Jin family. He swears to be Chin Yo-woon's eternal servant and expresses his gratitude. Hyobong asks if they are not overdoing it. Beak and Go Wang-hol think they have encountered another Hyobong. Go Wang-hol considers the situation to be unfavorable, as they are still 3 people short. He had thought more people would show interest, but since their liege has obtained another yellow name tag, it's only a matter of time. Chin Yo-woon inquires about the whereabouts of the other retainers, Go Wang Hul suggests finding a private place first. After a while, Qin Yo-woon stands in front of his friends and cadets. He acknowledges the absence of Wong Chun and Ho Di Mayon, then expresses gratitude to Ma Chil and Jia Woo-min for their efforts in persuading people. Ya Woo-min modestly responds that it was nothing, while Ma Chil thanks Qin Yo-woon for returning safely. Qin Yo-woon then asks about Oh Jong's whereabouts. They all remain silent. He presses for an explanation, learning that Oh Jong is currently hospitalized in the infirmary. Reflecting on this, Qin Yo-woon thinks about Ha Il-myeon and notes that he still has not lost his bad habits. Observing Qin Yo-woon, Baek-gi notices a difference in his demeanor. Although he is angry, he keeps his cool and controls his killing intent, unlike before. Baek-gi doubts that Qin Yo-woon will act rashly as he did previously. Go Wang Hul inquires about Qin Yo-woon's intentions. Qin Yo-woon considers that while the academy intended for the cadets to fight over the yellow name tags, which he acknowledges as scummy, he cannot say his actions were wrong. However, it appears that none of them are willing to forgive him. He decides that since they owe him a great deal, it's time for them to repay their debt. Reflecting on his change, Baek-gi acknowledges that he indeed has changed. After a while, Gal Yon reports that they successfully provoked Ha Il-myeon into taking Baek-gi's yellow name tag as requested. Chin Yu-chan inquires if Ha Il-myeon is the leader of their group, questioning if it is not Wu. Gao Yon responds that Wu Pyonghak has been hospitalized due to serious internal injuries. Chin Yu-chan expresses doubt, stating that he truly believes he wouldn't break a promise. He then produces name tags from his pocket and reveals that he has yet to fulfill his promise. Gal Yon asks for clarification, to which he explains that the agreement was for Gal Yon to assist him in obtaining Baek-gi and asks if Baek-gi is currently present. Gal Yon asks what exactly he would like them to do. He responds that he does not need anything grandiose. He simply believes that in order for him to capture Baek-gi, he needs to experience an even greater despair. He mentions understanding the saying that one needs to experience the lows to appreciate the highs, and upon reflection, he realizes that they do not really have anyone suitable to be a group leader with him. Gal Yon expresses confusion, asking what he means. He then calls for Yum-pa, who responds affirmatively. He informs Yum-pa that he will give him another chance. Yum-pa asks what he means by chance. Chin Yu-chan explains that he wants Yum-pa to gather his comrades and crush Baek-gi's no Qin Yo-woon's group and take their yellow name tag. He assures Yum-pa that he already knows how to accomplish this and warns him not to make a stupid mistake like last time. Yum-pa promises not to disappoint him. Chin Yu-chan adds that if Yum-pa manages to take their name tag, he can form a group with his comrades under his command. This way, they also gain a group leader, making it a win-win situation. Gal Yon thinks that Chin Yu-chan wants them to become his lackeys. Meanwhile, some cadets are practicing. Yum-pa approaches and asks if Cadet 108, Ha Il-myeon, is the leader of Group 6. Ha Il-myeon confirms and identifies himself as Cadet 200 Yum-pa. Seeing Gal Yon, Ha Il-myeon recalls that the individuals behind him are the same ones who helped him go after Baek-gi yesterday. He questions what business they have. Yum-pa gets straight to the point, explaining that he needs Ha Il-myeon's help and a yellow name tag in order to pass the third test. He scoffs, asking why he should help when there's nothing in it for him. Ha Il-myeon interrupts, telling Yum-pa to stop bothering him while he is training and to scram. Yum-pa counters, asking what if he told him that he is after Qin Yo-woon's group. Ha Il-myeon inquires about Qin Yo-woon. Yum-pa thinks he's wavering and admits that he personally owes Qin Yo-woon a debt, a rather annoying debt that caused him a lot of hardship. He explains that if they can take Qin Yo-woon's yellow name tag, his group will disband, questioning who would want to follow someone who has lost his group twice. He notes that naturally, Ha Il-myeon's chances of being disqualified and unable to take the third test will rise. Ha Il-myeon realizes that he does want to finish what he started yesterday and that he has no choice but to cooperate. He reluctantly agrees, saying fine. Yum-pa thanks him for making such a wise decision. Ha Il-myeon wonders when they will attack. Yum-pa responds right now. Ha Il-myeon smiles and says he likes his style. Meanwhile, Qin Yo-woon sits on a rock in the forest while his team members stand in front of him. Yum-pa and Ha Il-myeon arrive with their gang. Ha Il-myeon points his sword and remarks that they are quite adept at sneaking around the mountains. Chin Yo-woon stands up and acknowledges that he was about to go look for them anyway, so he appreciates them coming here on their own. Ha Il-myeon questions if he is smiling and if he doesn't understand the seriousness of the situation. Chin Yo-woon retorts that it should be his line. Ha Il-myeon asks what he means. Gal Yeon interjects, warning Chin Yo-woon to drop his wooden swords. They all draw their swords. Chin Yo-woon then challenges them, asking who the real idiot is. The scene shifts 4 hours ago to an empty field behind the expert training facility. Gal Yo asks Pyonghak if he will be okay by himself. Pyonghak responds that there's nothing he can do about it, he was told to come alone. Gal Yeon expresses having a really bad feeling about it. Pyonghak suggests they can form their own group as long as they have a yellow name tag. Gal Yeon counters, mentioning that one name tag won't be enough for the 20 of them there. It might even cause them to fight amongst themselves. Pyonghak acknowledges this, but insists that it doesn't mean they can stand around and do nothing. Gal Yeon agrees, adding that in order to survive in the demonic academy, they can't be afraid of getting their hands dirty, and it will really be the end of them if they give up simply because they are weak. Gal Yeon suggests using their ex-leader as a bargaining chip. He asserts that they can't keep crying over spilled milk, so they should stop worrying about the group. He promises to give Pyonghak a spot once he becomes a group leader. As he turns back, he suddenly realizes that it's Chin Yo-woon. Chin Yo-woon questions why he seems so surprised. Gal Yeon becomes scared upon seeing him and his friend. Pyonghak asks if he was used. They are shocked to see Beak-gi. Pyonghak questions if Beak-gi is here to take revenge for yesterday, expressing disbelief that he would pay the price for ambushing them like dirty weasels. A cadet whispers that Beak-gi and even Chin Yo-woon have heard that he will shatter their danchin if they anger him. Another cadet suggests they need to avoid him at all costs, pointing out how many people he has sent to the infirmary. Pyonghak counters that they outnumber them. Chin Yo-woon remarks that it seems like he is a real idiot for saying something like that in front of him. Pyonghak asks what he means. Chin Yo-woon moves to attack him, grabs his hand, and focuses on controlling his power. He strikes Pyonghak, causing him to be thrown away and spit out blood before falling down. Hyobong grabs Gal Yeon's shirt and demands to know where the yellow name tag is, the one he took yesterday after breaking all of Oh-jong's fingers. Gal Yeon reveals that Cadet 108, Ha Il-myeon, has it. Go Wang-hol remarks that it is as they expected. Chin Yo-woon comments that there's no way that greedy weasel would have just let these guys have it. Hyobong tries to hit him, but Beak-gi grabs his hand and tells him to stop. Beak-gi says not to stop him, questioning if he is getting sentimental because they are his former group. Beak-gi asks for a moment and then inquires about the earlier deal made over him. Gal Yeon reveals that the Blade Clan's young master, Chen Yu-chan, instructed them to create a crisis by attacking Beak-gi and taking his yellow name tag. Beak-gi finds it hard to believe. He thought he became indebted to Chen Yu-chan, but now realizes it was all part of his scheme. He asks if he was promised a yellow name tag in return. Gal Yeon apologizes to Beak-gi, expressing genuine remorse. Beak-gi denounces them all as filthy scumbags. Hyobong slaps him and calls him an underhanded piece of shit, then begins to beat him, vowing to do to Beak-gi what he did to Oh-jong. Go Wang-hol steps forward, urging them to hold up. He questions their next move. Go Wang-hol suggests that if they think just beating up one guy is enough, they should trust him. They can bait out all of them. He inquires if they really believe in young master Chen Yu-chan's words. Gal Yeon asks what he means by that. He questions if he really thinks he will give these guys a yellow name tag. Gal Yeon explains that the young master made a promise to them. He adds that since they are a group of 20, he must have promised them 2 tags. However, he realizes that he's only giving them 1. A cadet questions if he said they are in this together. Gal Yeon clarifies that he said he'd include them in the group, even if they did not help with the ambush. Go Wang-hol observes that first they got played, and now they want to start in fighting. Gal Yeon asks what he means by playing. He questions if he really thinks young master Chen Yu-chan would not have foreseen this problem and warns that if they fight amongst themselves, they will just be playing right into his schemes. A cadet wonders if they were really just pawns in his game. Go Wang-hol asks if shouting in anger is all they plan to do and suggests that if they are truly angry, they should seek revenge. The scene shifts back, where Gal Yeon warns them to drop their wooden swords. Ha Il-myeon and Yum-pa turn back to see him. Yum-pa asks what the meaning of this is. Galleon questions if they really think they can keep using the yellow name tag as collateral. He further asks about collateral and states that they must still think of them as idiots. Galleon suggests that it seems like someone has sweet-talked them. Hyobong remarks that he couldn't even take an instructor's name tag because he lacks the skill. He asks how dare they say that when they are weasels that ambush people in a group. Ha-il-myung becomes angry and questions how dare they claim they lack skills while they are busy running around like rats with their tails between their legs. Go Wang-ho laughs and says that, according to their words, no matter what, he won't start running like a rat. He adds that they have no intention of letting them go. Ha-il-myung is observing Chin Yo-woon and pondering how it has come to this. He believes that now is not the time to be prideful if he needs to attempt an escape by himself. However, he realizes that abandoning his group mates here would make it impossible to pass the third test. He understands that if he fails again, he will lose all chances of serving under young master Chin Yu-chan. He resolves to persuade them no matter what and avoid this crisis. Yumpa informs Galleon that he believes there has been a misunderstanding. He mentions that young master Chin Yu-chan had promised to make the guys his personal retainers and questions why Galleon does not believe him. He inquires if that means they will be given 2 yellow name tags. He states that in order to accept all 19 of them as his retainers, he questions if they do not need at least 2 tags. Yumpa believes that's why they betrayed them and wonders what he should do. He realizes that if he can't persuade them here, this mission will end in failure. However, he understands that he can't make a promise on his own either. He suggests an alternative approach, proposing that he will personally inquire with young master Chin Yu-chan so that the guys can receive 2 yellow name tags. Galleon asks if he will inquire. Yumpa thinks that since he can inquire, it won't be a lie and acknowledges that it will entirely be up to young master Chin Yu-chan whether he will accept it or not. He remarks that it's quite an attractive proposal, but wonders if he will be able to handle it. Yumpa inquires about handling it. Chin Yo-woon moves to attack him and states that he means if he can handle him. Ha-il-myung also moves to attack with his sword and attempts to abuse him. Chin Yo-woon holds his sword and breaks it. He is shocked to see this and thinks about how it was a wooden sword imbued with 7-star Kai. Beak-gi attacks him again and throws him away. He tries to get up once more. Beak-gi states that he will be his opponent. Ha-il-myung states that he is considering an underhanded surprise attack. He places his hand on his ribs and believes the possibility of them breaking again would put them at a clear disadvantage, but running away is not an option. They are all shocked to witness this. Beak-gi moves and advises against getting in his way. He believes there is no way they can handle Chin Yo-woon's monstrous group, and they need to somehow break through Group 12 and escape. Ha-il-myung inquires about what they are doing. Beak-gi instructs him not to look away from him and attacks. Go Wang-ho observes this and suggests that it's time for them to get started as well. Ho-sang HWA is prepared to fight and declares that this will be his debut. They all move to attack each other and engage in a duel. Beak-gi kicks Ha-il-myung. Yumpa witnesses this and ponders how it came to this, realizing that it's their loss, there's no way out, and resisting will only make things worse. He drops his sword and contemplates whether he can win. He kneels down in front of Chin Yo-woon and declares his surrender, acknowledging it as Chin Yo-woon's victory. Chin Yo-woon questions the meaning of this. He responds that the outcome has already been determined and wonders what they should do now that they have lost. He pleads for mercy, stating that Chin Yo-woon has defeated them, and asks to be shown mercy as a Vice Lord candidate. He believes that regardless of how angry Chin Yo-woon may be, he should show leniency towards someone who is begging on their knees. Chin Yo-woon grabs his hair and demands an explanation for why he should accept the surrender, asserting that if he didn't want to fight, he shouldn't have acted deceitfully in the first place. He questions Chin Yo-woon's actions toward a surrendered opponent. Chin Yo-woon responds by ordering him to be quiet and forcefully pressing his face onto the ground. All the cadets are shocked to see him spitting out blood. Chin Yo-woon states that he needs to pay the price for messing with someone else and asserts that he has not even started yet. He screams with pain and abuses him, asking if he really thinks young Master Chin Yu-chan will let this slide. Chin Yo-woon questions whether Chin Yu-chan won't let it slide and considers if he has hit a nerve. However, young Master Chin Yu-chan currently commands the most significant faction within the Demonic Academy, and he has no choice but to hope that Chin Yo-woon will be at least a little afraid of him. Chen Yo-woon expresses gratitude for the warning. He realizes that he forgot that he's the guy who shattered all of Chen Jong-sum's bones. Chen Yo-woon then smashes his face on the floor again, causing him to faint. He remarks that to faint from just this, if he had used all his strength, he might have ended up smashing his head. After a while, all cadets with Yum-pa kneel down in front of Chen Yo-woon and his friends, all badly injured. He inquires about Ha Il-myung's whereabouts. Hyo-bong responds that he's over there. He was resisting too much, so they activated his mute and paralysis Kai pressure points. Ha Il-myung thinks if only his ribs had not broken. Beak-gi asks if he should release his mute Kai pressure point. Chen Yo-woon declines, stating that it's okay. He doesn't have anything he wants to hear from this person. He holds his hand while contemplating his next move. Chen Yo-woon then breaks his finger, twisting it back, causing him to scream in pain. Chen Yo-woon tells him to stop being such a baby over a single finger and asks if it hurts. He breaks the other finger and says, "Here's another one." Ha Il-myung bites his lower lip to control the pain and refrain from screaming. He acknowledges that Oh-jong was probably in as much pain as him, or even more since the guys brutally beat him up. Ha Il-myung's subordinate hangs his head, realizing that they are the ones who did that and that they are in trouble. Ha Il-myung contemplates abusing him and vows to kill him, thinking that no matter what, he is going to kill him and slap him in the face. He tells his friends that he is going to give them an order to break one leg and all the fingers of all the members of Ha Il-myung's group. They were all shocked to hear this. Gal-yeon thinks if they had allowed Yum-pa to sweet-talk them earlier, they probably would have met the same fate. They all say yes. Ha Il-myung's veins start popping out, his eyes become red, and he transforms into a monster and moves to attack Chen Yo-woon. Hyo-bong notices him and calls Chen Yo-woon. Meanwhile, Chen Yu-chan is practicing with his fellow cadets. They are all tired. He remarks that it's odd and thinks they performed the Seven Demon Sword technique as the secret book detailed, but something doesn't feel right. They are all advanced martial artists, so they should have mastered the method already. He wonders why they are unable to recreate the unique synergy of this sword formation. He holds a book and suggests taking a break. He will have to read over the secret book some more. He then calls Wu Gum-pil, who responds affirmatively, "Yes, young master." Chen Yu-chan points to the book and asks the spectator how they think they performed the sword formation. He ponders something. Chen Yu-chan assures them it's fine, so they don't need to worry about sharing their thoughts. He candidly remarks that, to be frank, it only looked like everyone performed the same technique at the same time, and he can't quite say since he has never seen the formation appropriately performed, but it looked pretty normal to him. Chen Yu-chan agrees, saying he thinks so too, and then directs their attention elsewhere. Chen Yo-woon arrives, covering his face and placing Ha Il-myung on his shoulder, with his companions also placing other cadets on their shoulders. He demands to know who they are and instructs them to stop right there. Chen Yo-woon reveals himself, and the person he is addressing confirms that he is indeed Yum-pa. He inquires about Chen Yo-woon's injured face and questions who the person they are carrying is. Chen Yo-woon beats Ha Il-myung on the ground, and others join in, assaulting the others on the ground as well. Chen Yu-chan attempts to move his hand with the sword, noticing that Go Wang-hul and Beak-gi are also unconscious on the floor, identifying them as Chen Yo-woon's subordinates. He then notices another person falling to the ground, their face covered with cloth, and asks who this person is. The response comes that it's Chen Yo-woon. Chen Yu-chan becomes happy and asks what was done to put him in this state. He mentions that if it were not for Ha Il-myung, it would have been the end for them, and reveals that he has been learning the demonic blood reversal technique. Chen Yu-chan inquires about the demonic blood reversal technique. He explains that the demonic blood reversal technique is a Kai control technique that makes him stronger by reversing the flow of his blood points. However, it damages his Kai points the more he uses it, eventually leading the user to go insane. It's designated as a dangerous martial art, even within the cult. He adds that this guy was also a nut job. He bets he went on a rampage and attacked both foes and allies indiscriminately. Chen Yu-chan laughs and says, "Anyways, good job," expressing his genuine surprise. He admits that he honestly wasn't expecting much from the group, so he is pretty impressed. He begins to use his magic and remarks well. Then, before they send him off to the infirmary, he cuts his hand with magic, causing pain. He comments that it must have hurt. Sitting near the injured person's body, he states that unlike him, he will leave his danchin alone. Pyonghak observes this and thinks that Chen Yu-chan has cut the tendons of someone who is already in a mess, reflecting on how terrifying and merciless he is. Chen Yu-chan removes the face cover and asks if the person is not grateful. Shocked to see that it is Yumpa's body, he asks what this is. Jin Yo-woon moves to attack him, punching him in the face and throwing him away. Woo Gum-pil moves to attack him as well, asking what the meaning of this is. Go Wang-hul gets up, punches him, and throws him away. He is shocked to witness this and asks how he did that. He instructs everyone to get up. Ho Sang-hwa remarks that it was a fact, as she thought they'd be lying down a bit longer. Bi Kai says, well, everything went as planned. Ojai Lan from the Crimson Wind Blade clan accuses them and says they tricked them. He wonders about young master Chen Yu-chan if he was knocked out. Woo Gum-pil wonders about Group 12 as they are the ones who brought them here. Gal Yon readies to fight with a sword. Jin Yu from the Destructive Fist clan says he dares betray their young master. He's a snake. Chin Yo-woon removes his mask and says he can't believe the guys have such little faith in Yumpa, suggesting that maybe this was not needed then. He is shocked to see Chin Yo-woon and abuses him. The scene shifts back to where Ha Il-myeon moves to attack Chin Yo-woon from behind, and Hyo-bong calls for Chin Yo-woon to look back. Beak-gi kicks him in the face and throws him away, thinking about the powerful knockback for his Kai to increase so dramatically. He attempts to attack again, but Chen Yo-woon grabs his hand, hangs him upside down, and beats him on the floor. Ha Il-myeon screams with pain. Chen Yo-woon punches him in the face again and smashes him into the ground, thinking that he probably did not die since his body is more durable due to the demonic blood reversal technique. Hyo-bong asks if he is okay, and Beak-gi responds that he is fine, so there's no need to worry. Hyo-bong remarks, so that's the demonic blood reversal technique. This is the first time he has ever seen it. Go Wang-hul comments that to master a martial art that's banned within the cult. With this, his expulsion from the demonic academy is a certainty. He asks about the rest of them. Chin Yo-woon states that they have finished taking care of them. They just have to send them to the infirmary now. Hyo-bong suggests that now that they have avenged Oh-jong and uncovered the true mastermind, Go Wang-hul advises him to calm down, acknowledging that he is frustrated, but they lack the manpower to face them right now. Ya Woo-min agrees, stating that it's true, they need to not only match their numbers, but also have at least another 2 inept experts like Beak-gi in order to think about fighting them. Ho Sang-hwa asks Go Wang-hul if she would not be able to face an inept expert together. Gal Yon offers their help if they need more people. They are all surprised to hear this. Ho Sang-hwa thanks them, acknowledging that even with his group's help it will still be dangerous, but he supposes that it can't be helped. He suggests, well then, let's first take these guys to the infirmary and plan their revenge for later. He adds, damn it, if only they had at least one more inept expert. Chin Yo-woon instructs them to get ready, stating that they will strike Chin Yu-chan now. Go Wang-hul asks if he has thought up a plan. Chin Yo-woon assures her, saying of course. The scene shifts back to the present as Yu-jin berates and questions how he is doing. Wo Gum-pil responds, but his voice unmistakably resembles Yumpa's. The nano machine notifies him that the voice change is being deactivated. He remarks that it still isn't his voice, clears his throat, and adds, there they go. They are shocked to witness this. Wo Gum-pil remarks that his voice is altering. He expresses amazement at the phenomenon. Another person asks if they see their own faces. He comments that their shocked expressions are priceless. Yu-jin demands how dare they employ such tricks and tactics to attack. Wo Gum-pil tries to intervene, realizing that if that truly is Chin Yo-woon, there's no way he can confront him. Yu-jin moves to attack, but Chin Yo-woon sidesteps. He reflects on how easily he blocked Yu-jin's fist technique. Chin Yo-woon removes his name tag and declares that he will be taking it. He then berates Yu-jin and attempts to counterattack, but Chin Yo-woon strikes him in the chest and throws him away. Yu-jin coughs out blood and considers that perhaps his resilience as an inept expert prevented him from being knocked down in a single blow. The nanomachine notifies him that powerful energy is forming 60 meters behind him. Chin Yo-woon instructs everyone to get down. They all lie on the ground and observe as the Kai blade passes overhead. Ho Sang-hwa inquires about the Kai blade. Chin Yo-woon retaliates, breaking rocks and destroying objects in the vicinity. They are all shocked. He remarks, what a shame, Chin Yu-chan. Qin Yu-chan returns and explains that he wants to repay him for the surprise attack. He asks if Yu-jin has finally awakened, commenting that it took him long enough. Qin Yu-chan questions if Yu-jin is implying that he waited for him. Yu-jin responded that he didn't want Qin Yu-chan to use the surprise attack as an excuse for losing. Qin Yu-chan reflects on how he was still a brat when they first met in front of the individual training facility, noting his unbelievable growth rate, and regrets not slicing his arm off back then. He resolves to take one of Yu-jin's arms before he becomes more vital than him. Wo Gum-pil observes this and considers that for the young prince to become so serious, he must acknowledge Qin Yo-woon as a proper opponent. Go Wang-hul considers that if Qin Yo-woon loses here, it will be the end of the group battle. Qin Yu-chan employs the demonic Phantom Blade technique, executing the second technique and a Phantom Blade strike to attack Qin Yo-woon. Qin Yo-woon acknowledges that this technique belongs to the Blade clan, capable of rivaling the butterfly dance, and recognizes the seriousness of his opponent's fighting spirit. He blocks the attack and believes it would be foolish not to utilize all his abilities against a stronger opponent, preparing to respond with a sword technique. He ponders over the sword Kai and what his opponent is planning. He realizes that the Phantom Blade strike is not something he can easily block with an ordinary sword technique. He observes the movement and notes its curvature. Qin Yu-chan launches an attack, throwing him away, much to the delight of his friends. Qin Yo-woon's friends become tense. One of them reflects that he thought he had nullified his blade movement, but he ended up being attacked from such an odd angle. Observing Qin Yo-woon's technique, he realizes that such movements would severely strain one's arms, indicating that Qin Yo-woon's arms must be very well trained. Additionally, he notes that Qin Yo-woon seems to possess slightly more internal energy than himself. He admits that, honestly, he could have fought against the senior officer. Qin Yu-chan remarks that Qin Yo-woon is quite lucky, mentioning that he had intended to sever his arm with that strike. He questions why he continues to toy around with an incomplete sword technique that he clearly isn't accustomed to and suggests using his butterfly dance instead. Qin Yo-woon inquires about the insufficient sword technique. He questions whether he truly believes he wouldn't recognize that sword technique. Qin Yo-woon realizes that this is the destructive sword technique from the Sapphire Monument. He remarks that he seems to be mimicking the Seven Demon Sword technique demonstrated by the instructors, but that won't be effective against him. He warns Qin Yu-chan that if he persists in using the incomplete Seven Demon Sword, he will employ 5 techniques to teach him a lesson. He asserts that within 5 techniques, he will permanently bid farewell to their right arm. Qin Yo-woon proposes a bet. Qin Yu-chan inquires about the bet. Qin Yo-woon explains that since he is the one claiming he can defeat him with an incomplete sword technique within 5 moves, it should be a pretty advantageous bet for him. He asks for the conditions to be stated. Qin Yo-woon suggests fighting with all their yellow name tags on the line. Qin Yu-chan laughs and acknowledges him as a funny guy, but since he has 4 yellow name tags, he suggests making the bet fair by wagering Beak Gi if he wins. Beak Gi thinks that Qin Yu-chan is still hung up on him. Qin Yu-chan asks if that's acceptable. He looks at him, wondering if he can really trust him. Qin Yu-chan agrees, stating that this is finally a real bet, and invites him to attack first this time. Qin Yo-woon remarks that Qin Yu-chan is quite full of himself. Qin Yu-chan responds with a demand to shut up and attack already. They both move to attack each other. Qin Yu-chan observes the attack and thinks that Qin Yo-woon is a fool. His stubbornness will cost him everything. He reflects on how many times he has read the secret book of the 7 demon swords in order to fight against the instructor, realizing he already knows all of its flaws. Qin Yu-chan then uses the demonic Phantom Blade technique, specifically the 4th technique, Phantom Blade Wisp, to attack. However, Qin Yo-woon blocks his attack and counters. Qin Yu-chan is shocked to see this and wonders if this is actually the 7 demon sword. He observes that as the technique continues, it becomes increasingly difficult to block, and he falls behind. Getting up, he employs the demonic Phantom Blade technique, specifically the 5th technique, but Qin Yo-woon quickly closes in to attack. He wonders how he is so fast. Qin Yo-woon launches an attack, and he feels himself getting sucked in. Qin Yo-woon's magical blade, Kai, strikes him all over the body, causing him to bleed and scream in pain. Qin Yo-woon attacks him again, causing his blood to spread all around. He reflects that Qin Yu-chan, the Vice Lord candidate of the Blade clan, contrary to his flippant personality, is actually a hard-working genius who has worked himself to the bone. Having already been an inept expert at the time of entering the demonic academy, his ceaseless efforts have propelled him to the level of a true expert, shocking the other cadets. He considers that the subordinates who followed Qin Yu-chan were convinced he was the best candidate to become the next Vice Lord. Qin Yu-chan sits down, holding his injured arms to stop the bleeding. Qin Yo-woon declares that this bet is his win, leaving everyone shocked. A cadet exclaims, "No way." Wu Gum-pil inquires how this can be done in a single technique. Qin Yu-chan attempts to stop his bleeding while his subordinates rush to help him. Qin Yo-woon places his blade kai on Qin Yu-chan's neck, warning that if he takes another step, he will also cut off his. Wu Gum-pil instructs everyone to back off. Qin Yo-woon demands that they be handed over as promised. Qin Yu-chan asks how he managed to do it. Qin Yo-woon asks what. Qin Yu-chan inquires about how he performed such a great technique with just the 7-demon sword. He asks about the 7-demon sword. Qin Yu-chan confirms it. Qin Yo-woon responds that if that's what it looked like to him, he is nowhere near strong enough to be discussing sword techniques. Qin Yu-chan recalls that he said this earlier and reflects on how hard he worked to become the Vice Lord. He insists on Qin Yo-woon handing over the yellow name tags and then falls unconscious. Wu Gum-pil removes the name tag and thinks to himself to just wait, they will pay him back for this one day. He handed over the name tag and remarks, "Just as the young master said, don't think that this will be the end." Qin Yo-woon attacks him, leaving everyone shocked. Wu Gum-pil falls to the ground, spitting out blood, and berates him, questioning why he's doing this after they keep their promise. He asks for the meaning behind Qin Yo-woon's actions. Qin Yo-woon responds that he doesn't recall promising to end things with the yellow name tag. Wu Gum-pil is taken aback. Qin Yo-woon explains that he just learned a great lesson from Qin Yu-chan, not to leave loose ends. Wu Gum-pil argues that doesn't justify treating a defeated opponent like this. Qin Yo-woon slaps him, throws him aside, and retorts that it's acceptable when they do it, but considered spiteful when someone else does it, and he shouldn't be so unreasonable. He orders his comrades to capture all the remaining individuals and break their arms and legs. They all comply and move to attack. The others become frightened as their arms and legs are hurt while they scream in agony. After a while, Qin Yo-woon hands over the name tags to Gal-yeon. Gal-yeon asks why he is giving them the yellow name tags. Qin Yo-woon responds that he has no reason to hoard them and prepares to leave. He reflects that in a place where survival of the fittest is the rule, he didn't have to give the name tags to them, but this act signifies his destined greatness. He considers that because of this event, they have surely earned the enmity of the Blade clan. If that's the case, it might be best for them to support young master Qin Yo-woon in becoming the Vice Lord. They all kneel down, and Qin Yo-woon questions why they are doing so. They express their desire to swear their loyalty to him and plead for him to accept them. Baek-gi remarks that things have gone according to their plans once again. Hyo-bong thinks that Qin Yo-woon is genuinely